Welcome to another episode of Loudmouth Stereo. My name is Shan from She Gets It Podcast, and I have Greg throughout the show from The Young Black and Bothered. So don't forget to check out that podcast. We're on the Stereo app. Do you even know what the Stereo app is? If you don't, get the clicking. All right, go to your Apple Podcast app store, put in Stereo. It should pop up. Basically, if two people were on a phone call and the world could listen, but the two people's faces are not showing, it's like an avatar, and you can basically comment in during the conversation. That is stereo. The world can comment in on two people having a discussion about different topics on an app where the recording can be used later. All right. So get on the stereo app, get to talking, get to listening to some good shows. There's some great people on the app. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's show, especially because it was not planned, but it was a good one. Paying homage to some good podcasters, giving you guys some good truth on podcasting and all of that good stuff. Let's go.
Shan and I we listened and we quickly exited from a clubhouse, which was trying to tell people how to podcast. And as podcasters, I hate that shit. Because the first thing everybody who wants to discuss podcasting is they talk about money and how to monetize about it. Newsflash: be a good podcaster. The money will be there. It will be there. You know if you're a good podcaster or not by people who listen to your content, and you're not always trying to sell something to them. When I got into this, like, I didn't get into it for the sake of, the money that was coming from it. It was because I enjoyed listening to other people. Yes, to this day I get inspired by listening to other podcasters, which gives us the content that you guys are listening to now, which I like. I absolutely love doing shows with Shan, with Q, with anybody who wants to do podcasting. But what I will absolutely not do is do a show with people who all they want to do is plug and promote shit. It's not happening. Um, we listened to a guy who, instead of focusing on the content and giving a good show to the listeners, he said, you can become a podcaster easily. And I wrote it down. He said, because you can get credibility from nothing. Here's the thing. That's not true. You are your credibility. So if you're a cornball in real life, nobody wants to hear a cornball on the microphone. So the fact that he said, like, do a podcast if you want credibility, I'm like, no, you be the credibility before you even get on the fucking mic. Like, I don't know any athletes. I don't know.
Watches TV or a show because it's all good shows. No, some people watch TV to look at other stupid people. Exactly. It doesn't have the credit of having a great show. It just means that you're entertaining those group of people that want to watch something stupid. So when it comes to podcasting, go into podcasting because you actually want to podcast for the thing that you like to do, and you want to find the people that like the things that you like to do, right? And that's what's going to make you consistently podcast. But if you go into podcasting trying to say all the trendy things of what other people are making money from, and people can hear when it's not genuine, or people can hear when you're forcing something, you're not going to get the need. And people have to stop trying to come into podcasting and expecting money to be like on their first episode or their second episode. Your money in podcasting is not going to come unless you're somebody like a Jill Scott that created an episode, and now I can put an advertisement in the first episode because I know people are going to click on this.
Yeah. And that's what frustrated me, because, like, I'm listening to it and I'm like, okay, he's going to get to a point and it makes sense. And anybody who does podcasting, it's not like, okay, I do a podcast a month. Like, no, when you consistently are like churning out shows, you're doing different things, you're networking with different people. He mentioned credibility first, and then he said, you have to have advocates and an army. I'm like, what? Like, this is not like a Twitter hashtag. Like, you don't get an army to listen to your shows. If people fuck with your content, regardless if it's 2 people or 200 people, those are the people who fuck with your shows. Right now, we got 4 people in the room. I'm sure that some people are in here, going in and out. But the thing is, we appreciate them. You don't have to be a part of our army to just appreciate good or bad content. That's what like really frustrated me about it. And I actually left the room. And I
And
came
another
back, and then he was talking. Oh, go ahead.
another thing with the army saying is, if you think you're gonna go into podcasting, you're gonna have a huge group of people that are going to instantly support you, don't do it. Because
Mm-hmm.
first whole season of you podcasting, nobody that you know is going to listen because they feel like you're just trying something that you're not sure if you're going to stick with. They don't have the faith in you that you have in yourself. You have to be your own player, your own cheerleader, your own coach, your own person to tell you to get up at 5 a.m. and do this recording before you go to work just to make sure you have an episode today. If you have a
Mm-hmm.
segment on your show where you do something for Mondays and you do something for Fridays, you better make sure you have an episode every Monday and Friday. Like, you have to be your accountability person. There is no army.
Yeah. And that's what's so crazy. Like Stereo, for example, we're on here right now. We don't have an army. We don't have a group or like some type of like special thing. We just have people who come in here, they listen to us, they get alerts and stuff like that, and they just fuck with the content. And sometimes we might not be on like shit where we have a docket. Like today, there is no docket. We're just freestyling us, and you just have people that honestly just fuck with you. But that shit, it pissed me off. I don't get pissed off when I see those clubhouses where people are
Or
like,
you,
oh well, oh, like
because I was
I
in
get
there.
it.
I was in there earlier with him, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that what he says doesn't make sense. Some of the things that he does say make sense, and
Mm-hmm.
some of the routes that he did take may work for somebody. But I will never go into a show or a room and say, this is exactly how you do podcasting. Everything else
Mm-hmm.
that you're doing is bullshit. There's no other way. There's always another way.
Yeah, like his method. He told people don't focus on ads, focus on t-shirts. Here's the thing: if you have ads, they pay for the designers, they pay for the t-shirts, they pay for the ad space as a result of you creating good content. And the fact that he was saying focus on t-shirts and then you'll get people to wear the t-shirts, I'm like, yo, this is not like, sponsoring like, Girl Scouts or some shit. This is like
Uh,
podcasting. Like
well,
right now, I
that's
get.
when you get into
Go ahead.
podcast, you focus on podcasting. Now, when it
Exactly.
comes to marketing your podcast, sometimes if that's not your specialty, then you have to get somebody else to get into that for you. For me,
Mm-hmm.
I have a degree that is partially marketing. So I
Mm-hmm.
understand that if I don't have a big company wanting to advertise with me and they want an advertisement to be heard or seen, if you're a video podcaster, they are not going to run me t-shirts because I'm not I'm not uh promoting anything for them. But if they do have an ad or they do want attention, of course they're
Mm-hmm.
gonna offer to do t-shirts because they want people to go there so they can hear what they have. It's not the other way around. You don't make a product and then a company's gonna see somebody with a t-shirt and be like, what is that? Okay, I want to put my ad on there because you're wearing that. No, it's the other way around.
Yeah. And for me, like merchandise is merchandise, but you don't have to have like this grandiose number of people who listen to your shows. Like for
Yeah.
us, I tried that. I was like, you know what? We're gonna get on T Public. We're gonna have all this merchandise, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, yo, I can't even get my mom to buy the shirt. She still considers my show. What about that little podcast that you do? It's not a little podcast. Like shit like
Yeah.
that is triggering right there. Like those are fighting words for me.
But my mom, she wants to, but her thing is like she wants to know that I'm making some sort of profit from the time that I'm spending on it.
Hmm.
And that is not going to be the type of profit that you would think from a Foot Locker. It's not going to be the type
Hmm.
of profit you would think from an Old Navy because I'm not selling clothes. I'm providing
Hmm.
an object that people can have just in case that's their way of supporting the show instead of sending in money or doing clicks or
Yeah.
doing.
Exactly. When I got into podcasting, the reason why I got into it was because of guys like Rod and Phenom from like Where's My 40 Acres, all those like groups of folks. And I was like, wait a minute, like all the shit that my friends and I talk amongst each other, why don't we put that shit on the microphone, take out like obviously like names and relationships and stuff like that, take that part of it and profit. But the thing is, we're not profiting for money, we're profiting for listens. And that was my whole drive. I was like, you know what? If I can get some of my friends to listen to the show, they will tell their friends to listen to the show. As a result, I'm growing fanship. We can work on the merchandise later, but we'll have some just in case they're like, you know what? Do y'all have a sweatshirt? Do you have a t-shirt? So we just put like the generalized logo that we had for the show on T Public. We designed like the mugs and stuff like that, and people purchase that stuff, which is cool. But what the guy was saying, he was like, yo, like your mission should be driving the t-shirts and stuff like that. I'm like, nobody wants to buy a t-shirt from a podcast that only has 2 to 3 episodes at all.
Right.
Um, and for me, like I've seen so many podcasts that have, you know what, like, why don't you have, one show in August and then you have another show in November? I'm not checking for that shit. Like, I
Mhm.
don't even know when the last episode you had was. So
Yeah.
no, I'm not checking for your shit. And that's not to be disrespectful, disrespectful to podcasters. My main issue is you're telling people how to make money instead of telling them how to create good content. And as a podcaster, that's what you do. You tell people to focus on the content. When I listen to Kev and E. Ruth, that's a podcast right there. I
Yeah.
can tell them honestly without even like listening to the entire fucking show because there's sometimes like they're on a little bit late and I can't listen to it. But when I do, I'm like, that's a podcast. I can go back to that shit. I can go and subscribe to that shit. I will go and support that shit. When I listen to, you and Core, that's a product. That is a brand. That is a podcast. When you come like that and you come correct, I'm checking for your shit. But when you on Clubhouse giving away all the game, talking about, oh, this is what you do, this is what you do. I'm like, yo, go create 3 more episodes before you go and start talking, to a whole bunch of people in a room about what they need to do. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have all these people thinking, you know what, podcasting is easy. All I got to do is do like I do on Clubhouse. I can just pick up my phone, talk into it, and then, I created a show. No, editing takes time. To this day, I have not edited a single fucking show. You know what I did? I got an editor. That cost money.
Mm.
You know, I have a full-time job, a kid and a wife, and a mother punch people apparently, but that's a story for another day. But you know, basically with this whole podcasting thing for me, it's just like it really upsets me knowing that there are people who create good content and they don't realize that they are like content creators and podcasters, and all they got to do is take their audio, edit it a little bit, put it on a feed, and people will reach out to you and say, you know what, how can I pay you? How can I give you money? That's
Mhm.
how you generate interest. You don't generate interest by, spending your hard-earned money, spending your time to go and create something that honestly you're not fully invested in. You invested on making
Yeah.
money by spending money, and that's not how it works. Not how it works.
So when I was on earlier, I was telling people some people haven't started yet and they're thinking about doing it. Some people were like, well, I don't have this equipment and I don't have that equipment. I'm just like, you don't need the equipment is not what makes your show amazing.
Mm-mm,
Your
mm-mm,
content, focus on your content first. What like people are really stuck on how many episodes is a season. Your season
mm-hmm,
is what you say your season is. There's no season police. Like if you want to do 12 episodes for a season, you do 12 episodes for a season. If you want to do 30, you do 30. There's no podcast police as far as like your seasons and your numbers and
mm-hmm,
how it's to look on each episode. I think Greg is like 200 and something episode,
mm-hmm.
and I don't like if he wants to make that separate seasons, then he can make that separate seasons. For me, I just don't like my numbers getting higher
Mm-hmm.
than I say like 60 ish. Once it gets
Mm-hmm.
there, I want to focus and I want to narrow down the next season on like a particular subject. Maybe it's health, maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's maybe it's dating, but that's just me. But everybody doesn't have the podcast in the way that I do,
Yeah.
and that's what I
And
like about
that right there, what you just said made perfect sense. Like, for me, the reason why I don't do seasons is because myself, I'm not consistent. My podcast co-host, we aren't consistent. That's why when we record so much on stereo. We record on Zoom. I record on my phone. We have talks and we do it. And the reason why is because I don't want it to be like, okay, people are waiting on, episode 6, season 2. I'm like, no. We drop when we drop, and that's just how I work. Not everybody works that way, and that's fine. But when I hear people like they tell people you should start with seasons, I'm like, no, you have to start with episodes. You can't go and record one episode like, you know what, season one, episode one, and then in 8 months you're like, you know what, season one, episode two. Like, wait, the season actually twice since the last show. You can't create content first. Any like white podcaster, any big podcaster, they tell rule number one for podcasting is have episodes in the tub. So even if you don't plan on dropping your podcast until February 1st, record every day. Keep all those recordings. If it sounds bad, make it bonus content. If it sounds bad, just keep that shit because you never know. There might be that episode that an editor say, I can take the ums and the ahs and and all that shit out of it, and I can make an episode out of it. Speaking of what is it, the ums and ahs and all that? Don't worry about that shit. You don't want to sound robotic when it comes to your podcast. A guy on Fiverr, when I first started podcasting, he was like, "Oh, well, I can charge you. I can do all the editing for your show. I can go and take out the ums and ahs." I was like, "What the fuck are the ums and ahs?" I didn't realize I was saying like and ums and ahs until. And what pissed me off is he's like, "Oh, I'll charge you $85 an episode." And I was like, you know what? Why am I going to let you remove some stuff that actually makes the conversation normal? When we talk without like the word like and ah and a period at the end of a sentence. When a show for me that I had done just as like the he took a month from the show. It sounded I was like reading for commercials like and I did. I was like, I don't like, no. I want to talk like, my show, Young Black and Bothered. They're young people, black people, bothered people. Everybody gonna listen to that shit and be like, you know what? I want to feel like I'm in a room. I want to feel like I'm a part of that conversation. You don't feel like a part of the conversation when you're listening to true crime. That's because true crime is true crime. I don't want to sound like that shit. If I'm listening to, Sally Mae did a murder, yes. Give me all the robotic noises and the background chirps and shit, all that. But when I'm listening to black people, white people, or people who are just regular ass Joes talking and shooting the shit, I want to feel like I'm sitting across from them. I'm drinking the same drink that they're drinking, smoking the same shit that they're smoking, and having fun. That is podcasting, having fun. I don't want to hear, oh my God, like, you took out the ums and ahs. And anybody who does that, I'm telling you, you're wasting your fucking time.
Yeah.
You are absolutely wasting your time. Now, look at that. We got voicemails, so you might as well go ahead and hit them.
Yo, what's up, y'all? What's up, y'all? It's like the music game, you know what I mean? It's like back in the days, people made music from their personality. They tried to make it different, something, give the people something new. But now music these days is he's made it big, so I'm gonna sound just like him, tweak it up a little bit, and then there's that whole army of people repeating themselves, and I see that in the whole podcast game. So, just like anything, your love's got to be there for it to, I think, for it to stand out. You know what I mean? Like you got to love doing something, and then, especially with the entertainment business, you got to actually not just love it, but be, develop talent, a passion for it, and then start. You know what I mean? But like people always trying to rush into money first, and that's lame. Never works.
That's a fact. Come on, Kev.
First off, appreciate the love. But that's the whole thing. Like, and it's so funny because I'm not even like, I just really kind of stumbled onto this, and then we heard you guys, and it's like, oh, they're doing something really cool. It sounds good. You know what I mean? It was a whole vibe, and it's like, oh wow. And then we gave it a shot, and it was like, okay, we have some kind of something going on, and I think it's a talent thing too. Like, if you're not an interesting person, or you don't have anything to really offer intellectually or interesting, or even comedically or anything like that, then yeah, content will be hard for you. But I think people are getting caught up in this whole selling thing anyway, right? So everybody's always trying to sell you something, or sell you a way to do something, you know what I mean? Or sell you how to do Forex, or sell this or sell that. The whole life coaching thing, it's just I never fell into that because it's just a very greedy kind of thing to me when you just try to sell everything, or like you said,
Okay. Shout out to all the millionaires in Clubhouse rooms on Clubhouse. How, Sway? Like, you're not a millionaire sitting in a whole bunch of rooms that are for free on Clubhouse, and you're not going to show me how to become a millionaire by sitting in a whole bunch of rooms that are free on Clubhouse every morning, every night, throughout the day. That is not how millionaires move. That is not what millionaires do. So, when it comes to knowing podcast and how it works, just be yourself. Just be yourself. Have regular discussion. Be authentic. Talk about what you know, and don't try to attack a subject that you know nothing about, because we'll know. We'll hear it and we'll see it.
Yeah. It's not that hard, man. It disappoints me though, as a podcaster and honestly as a fan of like audio, like just listening to podcasts and TV shows and stuff like that. When I hear people and the first thing they talk about is how to monetize off of something, like you trying to monetize off of something that you haven't even started yet. You don't love it. And to be personally a podcaster, I didn't start loving podcasts until I actually had to learn how hard it is. When you have co-hosts that don't appreciate, the art of podcasting, when you have to stay up late to, edit shows, or when you have to go and wait for a download for a file, when you have to, even on stereo, you have to schedule stuff. You have to actually connect with people. That is podcasting. Anybody who's on stereo right now is technically a podcaster. You just have to have the love for it. There are some people who get on here and just have regular conversations, and that's fine. They're in, within their rights to do that. But when people start giving themselves titles like, content creator, podcaster, social media consultant, and shit like that, I'm like, yo, like I'm not yucking your yum here, but at the same time, it's like, oh, what do you? Y'all make that for the people who actually do this shit. Because you and I, we've both got questions from people like, yo, I've always wanted to start a podcast. How do I do it? I'm like, yo, turn the mic on. It's not that hard. It's that. Just go ahead, turn the mic on. It's scary, man. But yeah, please stop listening to people who talk about like you have to have credibility in order to be a podcaster, because there are a lot of people who do not have credibility. I am not credentialed in anything other than the fact that I know how to turn on a microphone, record, and have a docket. Shannon and I, the reason why we mesh so well is because she's the organized one. I'm the one that likes to talk a lot, and it works perfectly. It
Don't
works
get, don't
absolutely.
get this twisted. Greg will send you 43 episodes to choose from to go ahead and record for a night and have you choose. To me, when you look at Greg's calendar and everything he got going on, especially with his family, he's very organized to me. But I really feel like Greg and I mesh well to do shows on here for Loudmouth Stereo, because our work ethic and why we do it is similar.
Well, I
Because
appreciate you.
the last thing you want is to beg somebody to show up for something they said they were going to show up to.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Man, listen. Do you know how many people that I've been like, yo, like, are we gonna do that episode? It's like, oh yeah, well, can we schedule? Can we do this? And I'm like, no, we can't. At that point, once you start telling people no, you can't do shit, that's when they want to start coming back around. I've had people be like, oh, well, Greg, now are you ready to do the shows? I'm like, oh, I asked you in fucking 2018 if you want to do a podcast episode. Or I've had people who, they'll hit me up for advice, be like, hey, Greg, what microphone do I need? What, interface do I need? I'm like, yo, I don't mind giving you the game, because the thing is, if I don't give you like the information that it took me to fail in order to succeed and do what we do now, you're gonna be just like me. You're gonna be out here spending money on shit you don't need. I tell people, if it's just gonna be you, you don't need interfaces. You don't need a whole bunch of like setup. Get you a microphone, your computer, a quiet room, and record. I had a friend spend $600 on an interface, another $400 on a microphone, and I was like, how many people are recording? And they're like, just me. I was like, why? What's the point? Go in a quiet room, shut up, and you'll be straight. One of my old podcast co-hosts, shout out to Kelly. So she goes and she tells me, she was like, well, Greg, I want us to be a little bit more professional. How about we go and we book studio time? I was like, do you know how much studio time is? And she's like, oh, well, it's not that much money. And I was like, I think you need to go and look at those prices. Studio time is like $200 to $300
yeah.
for a week. And at that point, it's a 60-minute slot. And mind you, we had, what, 4 or 5 co-hosts on that show. What
Right.
happens if you want to start on time? And this is what happened to us. So anybody who's listening, I'll tell you, it's the guaranteed truth. They'll tell you the same thing. Our shows every week started at 8:30. We had some of our co-hosts that didn't start strolling in until 8:45, 9 o'clock. Now, that's no knock on them. It's just one of those things where, we had that rapport where, you know what, we start when we want to start because we create the content, we create the show. But when it comes to studio time, it's like going to work. If you know you're supposed to be at work at 9 o'clock, ain't no I'm showing up at 11 o'clock and, there's an excuse there. You've missed 2 hours of pay at that point.
Yeah.
It's that simple. So, I tell anybody who podcasts or wants to begin podcasting, like, don't focus on the equipment, focus on the content. Get your docket ready first. That's the number one thing. If you don't have like Apple Notes or Evernote, nothing like that, get you a scratch sheet of paper and be like, you know what? I want to talk about this, 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 and this, and this, and this. And take your
And
time. Because go ahead.
also, because you're on the group thing,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's better to go into a podcast solo.
Mm-hmm.
And then if someone is like a frequent collab person on there, you can give them a segment and then see if y'all want to do a joint show later, because it's easier to test the waters of a solo, a possible add-on. Someone's coming like on specific days to do the show, and somebody that wants to go ahead and mash in and do a collab show, or y'all could do a collab show together and do one separately. It's just really weird to go from a collab show or a trio show down to one, and people like, what happened? And now everybody in your business of your friendship or your beef, or it might not even be no beef. It might be just, I'm the one that really wanted to do it, so I'm still here.
Exactly. I tell people to this day, they still ask us, they're like, yo, y'all started with all these people, where'd they go? And I have to tell them, I'm like, yo, creative differences. But the thing is, we're still friends at the end of the day. Like, it's just one of those things where you can't try to mix business and podcasting or, and friendships and all that together. You can't do it. Some people can, and it's worked out well, but it's usually those podcasts that are like, 2, maybe 3 people. But in my case, we had one show with 4 people, and then we had another show with 5 to 6 people. And it's like, people starting to ask about, what do we do with the money? And I'm like, oh, there's no money coming in because y'all aren't doing the work. You're not on social media posting. With that amount of people, one person should be like, you know what? While we're going live, I'm posting on social media. I'm tweeting. That way people can, interact as, you do these things. My show, we had that, but the most part, it didn't work out for us. We're still friends. I just can't, going forward, do business. And that's, again, no knock to them. So anybody who does do podcasting with their friends, I would suggest contracts. I told, my friends this. I told, shout out Phil for a Positive Filter. I was like, yo, when you have a guest come on, or you have, someone that you are cool with come onto your show, even if it's just for one episode, get that shit in writing. Let them know the moment you turn the microphone on, that content is yours. You will be surprised how many people say what they want to say on mic, and then when they get home and they think about the shit they said, they want you to edit it, they want you to cut it out, and they don't want it played. Yo, I've had people come on the show and be like, yo, can you cut out like this part of the show? I was like, yo, you realize that part of the show, you talked for 28 minutes. I cannot cut out 28 minutes of a show. And plus, it was fucking funny. I'm sorry, I can't do it. You knew what you were saying when you were drinking. You knew what you were saying when all that happened. More importantly, like at that point, you're messing with the integrity of the show. Like it's like live TV. When you go to the news, if you see a blooper or something like that, it just happened. And yeah, you're gonna laugh about it a little bit later, but the thing is, it happened. It actually adds to the show. So for me, I don't delete shit. Like sometimes you'll hear our episodes, you're like, damn, like you hear the intro, the pre-roll and stuff like that, because a lot of that stuff, it matters. It adds context to the show. So if we go rolling into the show and we're laughing and we're giggling and we're talking about something, and you're like, well, damn, you feel like that person who just showed up to the party and everybody already having fun and they drunk, and you sitting there like, damn, where the cup's at and all the liquor gone. I don't want people to to join the show and all the liquor is gone. I want you to have just as much fun as we did. So all the content gets there. Without saying too much, I know we got voicemail, so you might as well just go ahead and play them because.
All right.
But it's not really secrets. It's just bad advice that people are selling. Just, you know what I mean? So, but I guess everybody got to sell something. So,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
but yes, just to give you a shout out. Hey, Greg, I love your sports side too. I can't remember who you did it with. That show was good, and the show with you and Corey was good too. So, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I will have a show with Core again on Sunday, but y'all need to listen to, Shannon Core, like Corey to me, Core to y'all, because they be giving up some content and some free game that y'all need to listen to, man. That
That's
that's
on.
that's the beauty of
He
uh,
gets hardcore. When is it,
it's stuff like that. I love it.
when is the sports show you do on here on Sunday?
So no, the sports desk we do it on Monday nights at 8:45. So tonight we'll have the show at 8:45. We'll be talking about everything NFC, AFC championships when it comes to football, a little bit of NBA, UFC. We're going to talk about wrestling for the first show for wrestling. Have the Royal Rumble predictions, and we're giving out awards. We're giving out the Adam Gase Award.
Oh,
You can hear my daughter in the background. She is not playing. She's like, I want some attention. But she might even have her own award tonight. The Skylar, why are you not giving me an attention award? So there's that.
it.
Oh Lord. Well, I can't say anything about the kids because it's before 5 o'clock. So technically
Why
he
do
can
they
do
sound like
it.
they on the bus getting COVID?
You know what? Somebody take away Shane's phone.
Hey, Greg.
Uh-oh.
Hey,
I know something's gonna happen. He's gonna say something real disrespectful in the next voicemail.
get your finger ready.
Do you guys think?
See?
I mean, quick.
Yo, just for a sports analogy, it's like somebody coming up to you and be like, "Man, how do you play basketball so good? I want to play just like you."
Yes.
Hmm.
And then you just got to look at them and give them the ball and just tell them start practicing. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing really you can do. You can't just magically give people the juice they got or the sauce. They got to cook it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wish people knew. Like the thing is, it'd be so easy to just literally like just create the docket. When Shannon and I, when we first started, like I think the first couple shows we did, like we just talked about what we wanted to talk about and we kind of like freestyled it. But then after that, we were like, oh, like when I found out you actually do your own notes, I was like, wait, like she's organized as shit. She has her notes down. She wrote, what she found out in the show, the comments and stuff like that. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do that too. And then, we went with the docket, and ever since then, that shit just floats from the moment we turn on the mics until we do the last call and you do the exit and the post roll and everything like that. It just works, and it's that easy. Podcasting honestly is easy. I just wish people appreciate it. It feels like a lot of the people that I talk to on Clubhouse, they don't. They think that this is like the stimulus check. They think that they're just gonna get that shit just for being, and you're not. You are not. um what? Go ahead, just play the other voicemails, because
Howdy, y'all. I got 4 kids, but I hate.
wow.
Wait a minute. I
He
didn't know what I
said,
was
"I got." Yeah, I didn't know either. I honestly I don't even want to know. I feel like he
doing.
was about to say something
Yeah.
very off the wall.
What's good? What's good? Passing through these stereo streets. Hey, Greg, and get
Yeah.
she gets it pot. What's going on? Yeah, man. See the topic about podding. We actually have a podcast with 2 friends of mine. It's called Smoke and Mirrors Uncut Podcast on any platform: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Hit us up. But yeah, man, it's just we've been doing it for almost 2 years now, and we've been going at it hard, and it's not easy, but we didn't put a bunch of money into it. We made it cheap and just grow and grow and grow, and we do it for no money. We made no dollars from it so far. We do it for the love of it. We do it for the camaraderie, just being with our boys, talking shit, just doing what we do. But yeah, man, we love the pod. I love the pod. Found stereo, so yeah.
See,
Facts. Thank
now he said the show was called Smoke and Mirrors or Smoke and Mirrors.
Smoke and mirrors.
Okay, I'm about to look it up now. So
Okay,
hold on.
let me say something. I love the fact that they're doing it because they love it. That's why I do it, because I love it.
Mhm.
I started a podcast because I hated hearing my voice on recordings, and I wanted myself to get used to hearing my voice. And it just turned into multiple shows. So for me, my goal is to not have to work for anybody if I don't want to. And if I could primarily just podcast and that's how I make my money, and then I could put my money in other funnels to grow my money and not just sit in the bank. That is my goal, because I don't know about what Greg wants, but I know Greg's daughter wants things, and I know I'm
Mm-hmm.
sick of driving my car and I want a Jeep in my driveway. And the way that I
Mm.
want to do it is not by me going to a job and me just paying bills and using a little bit of my saving it. I want to primarily purchase my Jeep off the lot by me podcasting. So that
Yep.
means I'm going to have to offer other companies or other podcasters um, places in the beginning of my show or in the middle of my show to advertise their products or their show, because I feel like podcasters need to help each other. So there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
for me to run Greg's ad for Young Black and Bothered on She Gets It or Cozy Womb
Mm.
podcast. There's nothing for Greg to run my ad about my show on at the beginning of his show or at the end of his show. That the fact that we are podcasters and we want to grow our shows and our audiences can be different or they can be similar. That's nothing. And for all podcasters to be waiting for these big companies to come give you a little bit of change just so they can run their ad about laundry detergent, and you don't have a show about laundry detergent, to me is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So find ways to support each other while growing at the same time so y'all could put some type of effort and investment back into your pocket.
Mm. Now, I want to say this. I found Detroit's podcast, so it's called Smoke and Mirrors
Smoke and
Uncut,
mirror.
not like Smoke and Mirrors Uncut. So he has 42 episodes. That is consistency, ladies and gentlemen. Consistency. 39 episodes. I think it's a total of like 45.
Mhm.
Episode 39, the last one was January the 1st. Episode is called Come On Cletus. So you know we're going to have him on the show. We have to have him on the show because
Cletus?
anybody, come on, Cletus. Like, the thing is, and it shows, it's like about like an hour, hour, 20 minutes. Yeah. So that right there, it not only shows consistency, but it shows that like he has an appreciation for the art of podcasting. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is an art of podcasting. If I talk like I'm very passionate about it, it's because I mean this shit. When Shan asked, she didn't know what I wanted to do with podcasting. Eventually, I don't want to have to podcast. I want to be able to manage and help other people who want to start podcasting do podcasting. I'm 33. I will, in what, 5 years, 6 years, I will no longer be young. I will be middle aged. Therefore, there will be no more young. It will just be a bothered black man. So it would
What?
it would just be that. So yes, the platform Young Black and Bothered, it is already set in stone that, eventually my daughter, she will have a show on the podcast when she wants to speak and when she wants to do things. She can say, YBAB, young black baby or young black and, beautiful. Like we have these things. And, I eventually want to step away from it and give that to my children. Like Baylor, shout out to BTG for president. It's a time capsule. So, other than writing in a diary or in a journal and stuff like that, I can go back to 2018 and know exactly how I feel about things in 2019, 2020, and it's all vocal. So if something were to ever happen to me, I can go and have my daughter listen to those episodes. She will always hear daddy's voice. She'll always know how I felt about certain things. And there's no, thing that can take that down because it's just there forever. So it's kind of like a legacy thing for me. It's never been about money, but if I get paid for it, yes, we're going to take that because college tuition is not going to be cheap. I know that for a fact.
Every year it gets higher.
Hmm.
So, you know,
Yeah,
get,
you hear it
get
now.
in.
She already want my attention, so you,
I
you know.
get in it for your reasons and podcast because you want to, not because you feel pressured to. And if being on the mic is not what you want to do in podcasting, you don't have to.
Mhm.
If being
Yeah.
behind the scenes is what you want to do, you could do that. If editing someone's podcast is what you want to do, you could do that. If narrating someone's show is something you want to do, you can do that.
Yeah.
So
That's the beauty of podcast. There's a job for everyone to do. Like if you got a friend who's like, you know what, I'm not good on the mic, but I can edit your show. Boom, that right there. Honestly, you can put this shit on LinkedIn. You can put it on Clubhouse as, you know what, I'm a podcast editor. Or, you could put on social media, hey, I edit podcasts, I, do artwork. And once you start networking within the network of podcasting, then you will find out so much. The way Shan and I actually met, it wasn't like, I knew who Shan was. We've never met. So when
Yeah.
we do meet, it's like, okay, we family at this point to me. Like, I could see her in 40 years. I'm like, you know what? Hey, it's just been 42 years. That's no big deal to me. Like, and that's how I feel like podcasting is. It's kind of like a family, but the same thing with Clubhouse. You have to find your tribe and try not to deal with like the drama aspect of it. I think you and I have kind of navigated, podcasts
Man,
without the drama.
I feel like we are like the champs of not being in the drama of podcasting and knowing names and who's talking
Yeah.
about. Like, I don't even acknowledge that stuff.
I don't even like his name. I don't like people enough to care about their drama.
Hello.
Yo,
Is somebody fine?
yo, like that's what be so funny when you and I, like when we talk and people be on here and they be telling us about like the drama in the middle of us talking. I'm like, yo, I don't know them. I don't know them folks. Who are they? Okay, good. I hope they have a good day. But outside of that, nah. Like the drama is. I'm not built for drama because I'm one of those type of people. Like I don't do it online. I'm not one of those. Oh well, we beefing. We're gonna go and talk shit to each other on Twitter. And we're going to
Yeah.
talk shit about each other on our podcast. Now, my podcast is for my listeners. My listeners don't need to know you because then if we're beefing, they just going to go over to your side and hear what
And
you got to
you're
say.
not about to make yourself relevant on my shit.
Man, fuck that. Mm-mm. My interest is me, my family, my friends, and my fans. So anybody who listens to the show, I appreciate the fact that you fuck with us. The reason why the show is called Loudmouth Stereo is because we don't gossip. We just got loud mouths. I think that should be the slogan right there. That's the slogan right there. Doing amazing. Now hold on, I think we have a voicemail. Let me see if I can play it. I think Shane jumped off for a second, but here we are.
Yo, facts. We get people on our show too. We have, special guests, whatever. We let them know from the rip. Anything that's on this mic is ours. And they agree. And when they go back and listen to it, they be like, oh, what can you? Nah, it's too late.
Right.
You gave us that verbal agreement. And it's true. We should do more contractual stuff in handwriting. So
Please check out She Gets It Shop on Teespring. The website is in the description for the show. All right. I got merch on there for the show for those who would like to wear their support or show their support that way. You can support the She Gets It show and podcasts and merch on that website. And if you can't get the website, just remember www.whoisshan.com, and you can support me on other shows too and other places to shop for merch. Let's get back to the show.
Yeah.
we have more backing. But, yeah, man, you got to tell them from the rip. This is your material. And whatever you said on his mic is what's said on the mic, period. And we always tell them, like, yo, we got uncut at the end of this title for a reason, because it's uncut.
Yep. Yeah, some shit just needs to be the way it is. Like there are podcasts that do a lot of like heavy editing when it comes to podcasts, and then there's shows like Shannon Hours where there's slight edits when it comes to things, and if we do have to cut out something because a name was said, then that's fine. But the chopping, the chopping screw versions of podcasts, I don't even like listening to them because it feels like it's not genuine to me. Like I like the Reeds, I like Jaden XD, I like She Gets It Pod, I like Baylor the Great, I like Forget That Yo, shows that honestly, the moment you turn on the mic, it don't feel like a radio show. It don't feel like Steve Harvey. It feels like I'm in the room. And if I get that, that is content that you're gonna get my listen every single week. And Shan, I know for a fact she gets my listen every single week, regardless of how many shows she dropped. One week, I think she dropped like 8 shows. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. We listening to 8 shows this week.
And this week
Yo.
is about to be flooded because I'm getting
Man.
my 700.
Yo, do you know how many people, they be like, oh, well, dang, like how you drop like 2 or 3 episodes a week? I'm like, you complain about 2 or 3 a week. Do you know when I see She Gets Pod, I'm like, wait, did I miss something? Did I miss this episode? Oh no, she just dropped another one. And that's fine. That is fine. What is that? That meme with the dog sitting in the room that's on fire talking about everything's fine. That's how I feel every time I get an episode of She Gets a Pod. It'd be like, yeah, she's giving She's giving us fire, but everything is fine. I'm gonna listen to it though. I'm gonna listen
Listen,
because yo,
I
I
have
think
a
for me,
personal goal. Nobody's forcing me to do this. I have a personal goal for myself. I have. It's not like I'm running out of things to say, things
mhm,
people can use to be constructive and better people in their lives. And I just
mhm,
want to share it. I made a personal goal to get to 700 episodes by the first. I am at
mhm.
695 or 96. So I'm about to rack y'all up for the rest of
And here's the beauty of podcasting. Right now, she's at 696 because this could be an episode right in your
yeah.
face, right in your face. You are your content. Everything you do on this app. There are people who have like 101, 102 talks. I'm like, you realize that's 100 episodes right there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Like all them sports stuff that I wish I would have edited. I can't post them now because it's a little bit too late. You think they're not
Yeah.
going to be bonus episodes though? Without a doubt, they're
Put
going to
them
be
in as
episodes.
bonus.
Oh, they're going to have to be a bonus because at
Or
this point it's a little bit.
you could do like sport flashbacks.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Depends. I'm
Yeah,
gonna play
I'm
some more
just. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Smoke and Mirrors Uncut.
smoke
Sure.
and good.
You hear that?
Thank you.
We might have to give him some like what do you call it, like a podcast drop. You are listening to the Smoke and Mirrors Uncut podcast. I'm
Yes.
Greg, and who am I joined with?
Right. And especially if they come on here, like I don't know if
Uh
they're
huh.
gonna come on the show. I'll pop through
Yeah.
there
Oh, they're
for
gonna have
sure.
to. They gonna have to. This is how podcasters are supposed to connect. Shit like stereo.
Yeah.
Because trust me, that Apple Podcast app that Shan loves so much, they
Shut
don't
up!
promote
Shut
us.
up!
They do
Up!
not promote.
Okay,
I'm
so
trying.
you know what I
Go,
found out? So
go
once
ahead.
once their show is on there for at least a day on the Apple Podcast app,
Mm,
once you go to it in there and you click the link to copy and share, once you go
mm-hmm,
to share it, let's say you go to share on Facebook or you go to share it on Twitter, then your title will show up in the thing. Their problem is your title is not instantly generated as a post, whereas other
mm,
platforms it is instantly generated as a post. So I do understand that's frustrating because it is frustrating for me, but I also like to post through Spotify, and Greg hates Spotify.
mm-hmm.
Greg is trying to get me to do this Castro to go ahead and listen to my podcast, and I'm just like, who is the easiest that makes sense?
Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I keep telling her to go to Castro is because the perks. Apple's podcast app to me, I think is absolute garbage. Even though you can change the speeds now, you can go to like 1.2 and 2.0. It
Yeah.
sounds robotic. Um, And Shan, I love her dearly, but if she has to keep screen recording the shows that she's listening to instead of just using Castro where they have a share feature, they will go and let you share the point that you want to share on the show, and it could be up to a minute and 30 seconds, and then you can share it on social media. That is a podcasting tip for any podcaster. If you get an app that does the share clip like Overcast and Castro, you can go to your own app that you listen to your podcast, or you be like, you know what, I'm listening to my own episode. I like that point in the show. Let me go ahead and share that shit. You can share it to Instagram stories, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Telegram, iMessage, WhatsApp if you use that shit still, all that stuff. Even my daughter, she's advocating for it right now. That's why she
No,
can't
she
talk,
is
but she can.
not. No, she is not. She does. She's
Yeah. But I mean, if you have to use Apple Podcasts, sure. I mean, be my guest. I think my personal issue with them though is when Shan does multiple episodes though, it'll do the most recent and it won't give me like the most recent three or four. Any Yeah, that's my only issue. So say for example, if I used Apple Podcasts, I have to go and search for her episode. And if I have like my notifications off, which I do for Apple Podcasts, I will not know that she dropped the show. With Castro, if she dropped 4 episodes that day, I get 4 notifications. But on Apple Podcasts, I get one, which is the most recent show, and that's it. So I'm
okay.
completely off of Apple Podcasts.
Question for you with Cash. Does it give you
Hmm.
like full screen square, like let's say if I wanted to post it on Instagram, like I do with Apple, or is it just that small box?
Nope, you can have full screen if you want it. You can
Mm.
change it. So like right now, if I go to Castro and I open up my like podcast listing, whatever I'm listening to right now, I can go and click the crop share and it gives you four options. It can give you a small square, which is like the one that you can put in your Instagram feed. They have the long one for Instagram stories. They have the little like the medium sized one that looks good on like Twitter and Facebook, or you have the one that is the sound waves where it'll show you sound waves, but it won't show you the artwork and stuff like that. So I'm telling you, like it's just so beautiful. But Shan, she enjoys using Apple Podcasts.
I do.
Mm, mm,
I
mm.
do. I do. I do.
It hurts
Yeah,
my heart
brother,
so
I
much.
appreciate you looking us up, man. We could definitely hook up. Shit, you come on our show, we come on your show, man. We talk about current topics. We talk about topics that affect the black community. We talk about sports. We talk about relationships. We talk about everything. So appreciate you looking us up, man. I appreciate it. We'll definitely look you up too and have you on the show and have some fun with this, man, because in this podcast community, we have to be together. Like you
Yes,
said,
Yeah.
homegirl, we have to be able to
Yes.
grow together. So therefore, we have to support each other. So yeah, appreciate you, homie.
absolutely, man. We got around here, man. Cause trust me, Shan's favorite app, they don't fuck with us. So
Shut up. Shut up.
How do you keep like a good relationship, like healthy and stuff?
I can answer that. So you keep a good relationship by listening to Cozy One podcast and She Gets It podcast. Not only will you get the information you need, you're going to get the information that you didn't think you needed, but it's going to be something that you wanted. That again is Cozy One podcast and She Gets It podcast. Those are two different podcasts. Young Black and Bothered. We don't do relationship advice because I'm married and nobody wants to hear from a married dude telling you about relationships. But I will if I have to, and since if I have to. But She Gets It pod and Cozy One podcast, and so what page we on there. Like those are three shows I think you need to go ahead and add to your Castro or Overcast. If by the grace of God or the strike of lightning you have to use Apple Podcasts, feel free to subscribe on those platforms as well.
Shut up, Greg. You can come on here on the Stereo app and catch Greg and I on Loud Loud Stereo on Wednesdays, on Saturday nights, talking it up and being very honest and blunt about what you need to be doing, what you don't need to be doing.
Well, see, it's all Shan's fault. So,
No, it's not.
Bro, I just cheated on my girl. What do I need to do?
oh boy, here
Go
we
do
are.
your
I might.
homework.
You know what?
Go do your
Today, fine. So I'm here. Why not? I get off for work in 15 minutes, so why not? You just
homework.
cheated on your girl. How do you do it? What do you do if you cheat on your girl? You leave your girl for the person that you cheated on her with, and then what happens is, then you stick with that because clearly you ain't shit. Just go ahead and you've already done half the job, so just finish it. Just leave.
That's the child. He needs to go do
Oh,
his homework.
wait, that was a kid. Okay, so don't. I'm sorry. Um, don't do
He
anything
must
I
have
said if you
cheated
were a
on a
child.
spelling test, is what he sounds like. He needs to do his homework.
My
I'm
daughter
not.
is laughing at him.
He got a lot to say.
Matter of fact, what's the name of you guys' podcast? So I'll go ahead and look them up and give it a listen, give it some support.
All
Absolutely.
right.
Shane,
Greg,
you?
you go first.
Oh, nope. Ladies first.
Oh my goodness. For me, it's She Gets It podcast. Then you have Cozy Boom podcast. If you are a parent and you couldn't hold back that stuff, and you are a parent, Cozy Boom podcast, right? Then if you are into reading about books and chopping it up about adulting and how that sucks sometimes, you can check out So What Page We On Be, which is a on the go book club with myself and two friends. And then you can find Greg and I on here for Loudmouth Stereo on Wednesday nights and Saturday nights.
Yes, indeed. My podcast is Young Black and Bothered. That is 285 episodes of probably the best fucking content you will ever get on your life, including Loudmouth Stereo. I'm not the president of podcasting, but I'm doing pretty good at whatever I'm doing, and that includes Loudmouth Stereo with Shan. I feel like we give people great content. There are multiple co-hosts, including Young Black and Beautiful with Shannon. I'm sorry, with no, that who is that? That is fucking Chris and Iris. Look at that. You and I do so many fucking shows. I'm forgetting who does the shows. I have the sports desk with Q. We are looking for a third person to come and do this sports show with us if you wanted to. Just let us know. We are looking for other podcasters. So if you don't have a home, you have a home with us. Definitely. Just make sure you are consistent with your show. Don't come to us and be like, all right, I always want to do a show, or I have a show and you ain't done it since like 2017. We will be listening. And that doesn't have to be rude or derogatory. It's just one of those things where like you are only as good as the team that you play for. And I feel like we have a good ensemble with, Shannon, myself, Chris, Iris, Q, old podcast co-hosts and things like that, as well as the guests, man. We're all pretty much like one band, one sound. And I mean, 280 episodes in, the average podcast only has 15 episodes. So I mean, if you do the math, we doing pretty fucking good. We ain't doing as good as Shan with, 4 from what she's officially now 4 from 700. I think we need to clap it up for her being a independent Black woman doing a podcast with almost 700 episodes. Do you know how many episodes 700 is? That's more episodes than Friends, Living Single, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Martin, and together 700 episodes. Your favorite TV show ain't got 700 episodes. Your favorite 10 shows don't.
Let me tell you something. Shan, myself, we out here giving you all the sexual energy that is not being used, okay? My punani is dusty, and I got things to talk about.
Uh-oh. You heard that? That was pretty spicy. I ain't even gonna go with it. I'm just gonna let it be what it was, because she said it. I did not. I'm not getting in trouble for her shenanigans.
There's
nope.
one more show that I forgot to mention is that She Gets Hardcore with Corey on here. So if you see Corey with a K, holler. Okay. So that's another show that we do on Thursday night. So a lot of content.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention too. I do have one with her as well. I got to be more consistent though, because I'm a terrible friend with a lot of shit. But
Greg is busy.
I'm busy, man, but I'm not as busy as you. When I say Shannon, I know I'm bigging up Shan, but think about it. You big up your friends, you big up your co-hosts, and more importantly, you get great content out of your co-hosts by making sure you let them know you appreciate them. I appreciate her as much as you should if you get it, because she gets it. Do you see the plugs right there? There's a plug within a plug within a plug. This is the matrix of plugs when we talk about this show. So,
Greg was a rapper.
I was. I will never rap in real life, but I had my ways. I had my whole phase, and I had my rapper phase. I didn't sell my mixtapes though. I did not sell those. It was only like 3 songs. But outside of that, man, both of us are looking for people to connect with. We are looking for content creators who actually do want to create content, even if you've never done a podcast before. We do not mind assisting. We do not mind helping you, but you have to want to do the work. And that's the difference between people who want to monetize from podcasts and people who want to make you a podcaster. And I'm not saying we can do it in a day or a week. It takes you. You have to have the effort. Like Detroit, he did it himself. So he's self-made. He can go into a job interview for just a regular 9 to 5, and they say, "Well, what do you do for a living?" It's like, I do everything and more. Because once he gets off work at 9, at 5 o'clock, you know what he does? He probably goes to podcast. He's probably networking. This is like a job within a job here. And when Shannon and I first started talking, I said, this is like a part-time job right now, to the point where I think every other day you and I have something going on. You have a show with me Wednesday and Saturday. You have the show with Corey. You have your own podcast that you're doing. Whenever you do those, it's like, damn, what aren't we doing?
Yeah.
So this is why we say podcast for the love of it, not for the money. We got a couple more voicemails, so
How do you have a good relationship? Yeah.
How do you have a good relationship? Honestly, even though you're probably like 14, just be consistent.
Listen, live your life. Live your
Yeah.
life. If you're the age of Similac and
Mm-hmm.
29, live your life. Okay?
Yeah.
That's it.
Hey Greg, is it mental that you smell like Joseph Fritzl?
What?
Look, listen to me. Your dad is in the background telling you to hang up the phone. Come on. Did you hear his dad? You talking to him? He's like, "Yo, get the fuck off the phone!" Like, he had to say that real quick too. Get out of here, boy. Get out of here. Next voicemail.
You guys can also look up us on our Facebook and our YouTube too. We want to try to grow that more, our YouTube page, but our Facebook page is Smoking Mirrors Uncut Podcast. We do a lot of live episodes. We do have some recorded ones where we can splice it up and put our intro and stuff like that on. So definitely look us up on Facebook. We have a lot of live episodes. I think we're up to episode 45, but check us out there too.
Cool.
Shane, you and I have to start doing that with these. I don't
I
know how.
definitely Facebook a few days ago, and I'm happy. Facebook does nothing for me. None of the shows. I deleted it. Oh.
See, that's like for me with Facebook, I can't delete it though. And I want to so much. I'm like, maybe if I just go inactive and people just don't see me on Facebook, then that's fine. But my issue is everything is tied to Facebook. If I delete my Facebook, then I think they said like if you delete Facebook, then you can't get into certain accounts without changing your like profile and all of my stuff, like my Instagram, my WhatsApp, and all that shit is connected to Facebook. So if I delete that, then a lot of the accounts that I signed up for using my Facebook login, I got to recreate that shit again.
I have attached to my Facebook is Spotify, which I already made a new login. You hate it, I know. And Sheen for me spending my money. I can make a new account. That's not a problem.
I guess we can actually talk about that. My absolute hate for Spotify. We'll do it again. I know we talked about it on like the art podcasting episode we did, but we're going to do an update, and I'll do that. That way I ain't got to talk about it on Wednesday. My issue with Spotify isn't the app. My thing is, as somebody who listens to podcasts, I only want to listen to podcasts on a podcast app. Having everything at once, yes, it sounds good in theory, but Spotify doesn't notify you when you get a new show at all. Like it pretty much tells you, hey. So you have to go and search for shit. You have to be like, all right, like 10 episode this week. Did Young Black and Bothered have a new episode this week? Go search for it. And if you're anything like me, you ain't searching for shit. I'm not going and searching for your show. If that shit is not a notification on my phone, I'm not searching. And for me, it's disappointing knowing that Spotify of my favorite shows, and the shows are like Spotify exclusive. Like I know I've kind of tapered off with the Black Guy Who Took because they are Spotify exclusive. Like I listened to them more when Joe Budden was exclusive to Spotify, and the reason why is because like I'm not going to one app to listen to one show when the other podcasts I listen to are on Apple Podcast and Castro and Overcast. So yeah, you're going to get less listens from me. If by the small chance that Apple does this whole thing with this Apple Podcast Plus, where content creators will start making money, I'm telling this to anybody who's listening now or on the podcast, go and get the rights to your podcast now. Now, the reason why is because it is slated for iOS, basically whenever Apple announces something in June, that they're going to do Apple Podcast Plus, which is the counter to Spotify. The counter to Spotify is being able to let content creators who use Apple Podcasts and stuff like that to do bonus content through Apple Podcasts. And saying that, like, you won't be able to monetize if your podcast is not yours. So you want to be that podcaster who says, you know what? Yes, my podcast is on Apple Podcasts, but it's also on Spotify. People who are like, oh, well, my podcast is only on SoundCloud, it's only on Spotify. I'm like, no, put your shit on everything. You're honestly losing listeners just going to one platform. Because what about the people who don't use Spotify? Like there's people who use Tidal for their podcasting, but how many people do you know got Tidal?
Right.
So, I tell people the rule for podcasting is be on as many platforms as you can. I'm talking Pandora, Amazon Music, Google Music, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Castro, because all these you need to be on there. If you go out, it's like if you have a business card. Your business card is your show. So the best way to figure out if your podcast on a certain platform, go and Google this link. Not Google it. You can go to the website itself. You can go to Podlink. Let me just go and get that again just to be sure. Pod.link. HTTP. The all the that shit. So you go to that pod.link. There's a search at the top of the right. You go to the top right and you type in your podcast. It'll tell you when you go to your podcast all the platforms that it can find you on. Right now, if you go and type in Young Black and Bothered, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, Castbox, Google Play, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Radio Public, Pandora. Like we're on, and best do that. I'll say faster. Using link, if you have say our boy Detroit, if decide he wanted to go and share his link, he can go to Podlink, copy that link, and send it to whoever. So if they want to listen to an episode, they click that link, go to the most recent episode, and just click directly from there. So that's a life hack for any podcasters. Look at that. I don't know how. Now we're gonna play these voicemails, but I'm gonna just let y'all know this now. I'm not in a blocking mood right now, so I'm gonna play your voicemails, but I'm taking mental notes. If you are a kid and you on that shit, I'm gonna block you later. Just not now. It just depends on how I feel. So we'll go ahead and hit that button. Oh Lord.
Hey man, I just want to ask y'all a quick question.
No.
All right, so I went to Wingstop, man. I got that 15 piece mile, and then I went over to Buffalo Wings and got that 15 piece lemon pepper. So I go over to the Buffalo Wings not the Buffalo Wings, man. I start to count my wings, and I noticed that I was missing one. Now, do I make a big deal out of this, or I just keep myself quiet and just take one as a loss? Tell me what to do, man.
You take a loss, buddy. You take a loss. So we're going to play these last four because I have a important phone call. So we're going to play these last four, and we're going to come back immediately after the call.
All right.
We use StreamYard. StreamYard allows us to video chat with each other, bring on guests, had that interaction with people that watch us either on Facebook or on YouTube. They're allowed to interact, and we can hold a good conversation, back and forth conversation by hosting through StreamYard. So just think about it. It's something else that you guys could probably do with your podcast to bring more people on and, help with your content also. It also helps out with the conversation, keeps the conversation moving, and keeps it fun.
Oh yeah,
that's what I like to hear.
Interesting.
Hey, you're speaking all the truth right now, brother. Spotify be killing us, man. For some reason, when we load up, they don't drop the notifications to people that subscribe to us on Spotify. So people are like, yo, when's the last time you're going to throw up a show? Be like, nah, we threw up like 5 shows. They were like, well, Spotify ain't sent me a notification. I'm like, we're up. So Spotify do that. Who else? Apple do that nonsense too. They do the same thing, man. So yeah, but shouts out to like Google. Google's on top of that, man. You load up an episode, they throwing that thing out there quickly. Podbeam, same way. You load up your episode, they send out notifications to subscribers immediately. But yeah, man, Spotify be dropping the ball, man.
Mm-hmm.
Because Spotify is not for podcasters who are not making them like buku money like a Joe Budden does.
Exactly.
Also, look to try to get on Pandora. We're on Pandora too, so like we're all over the place. Pandora, they're good. They're okay with sending out notifications, but definitely look to get in that too. There's plenty of avenues where you guys can load your content, get your podcast out, be able to get it out to as many people as possible. We're still in the learning process as far as like where we can put it to get the content out, but yeah, check out Pandora too.
I did submit to Pandora, but they take a long time to pick up the show.
Yo, I'm hopping back in. Y'all, y'all dropping them gems tonight. I love it. The education of it. This gonna be my tutorial right here. I'm gonna just go back to it and just listen to get all the gems in the games. It's like when Sonic. You remember when you used to have like 170 rings, not 170, but like 99, 98 rings, and then something hits you, and then all the little rings just spread out everywhere. That's just what I feel right now. That y'all doing. So, yes, bless up.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Greg got to take this call. So, what I was saying primarily is, man, just come do your show. Do your show. Never mind. I think with podcasting being so popular, a lot of people are going to get bombarded with information. And sometimes if you give too much information, you might turn people off and make them scared to try. So sometimes when Greg and I go on Clubhouse, we might see a room specifically for podcasting or talking about podcasting or how can you grow your podcast or how can you monetize your podcast or what makes a podcast good. And you might see people making millions off of podcasting, but they've been in it for years. And not necessarily what they do might work for you. You got to do what works for you when it comes to podcasting and take their information if you can use it. So like I might listen for websites that might give you music where you ain't got to worry about copywriting, or I might check out a new platform that I haven't heard of for podcasting because I'm always Googling the shows to see who picked it up, because a lot of platforms will pick up your show, not tell you that they picked up your show. And on the page where your podcast is, it might ask you if you want to claim your show, and you should claim it because then you can get the analytics from that platform of how many people are on this platform consistently using it and want to hear my show. So it all helps you when it comes to like marketing and where you're putting your show, so you're not wasting your time and your effort. Because for me, I tried YouTube with Cozy Womb Podcast. Really wasn't getting any traction with that. The people that listen to Cozy Womb Podcast do not watch podcasts, right? Then I tried She Gets It Podcast. I did a season where I did primarily videos for YouTube. I took the audio from the video, turned it into an MP3, also used it for audio, and I got a little bit of traction, but not for the fact of me setting up for a video, having a docket, having a flow, editing the camera, focusing on lighting, now uploading it to the YouTube page, it taking like 3 hours to do, me making sure that my computer doesn't like turn off so it can upload all the way and not say error, because I hated that shit. And then you get the video up there and you only get 6 people to watch it. And then YouTube would tell you you can't have any advertisements or any other add-ons until you reach a certain amount of views. So I'm really not with platforms that automatically limit you at the beginning. So you might find platforms that say, okay, so we'll give you this amount of space per month for you to do your show on our platform, and you got to pay us. Why would I pay you to limit me on how many episodes I could do per month for you to tell me if I can or I can't make money from it? Why wouldn't I go to a free platform, make as many episodes as I want, make sure that my content is good content, make sure that I can get listeners if there are listeners out there or followers, and then if I want to come to your platform, my numbers show you that people want me, people want to listen to my show. So don't go places that limit you from the jump, because if there's a place that's limiting your show or how many episodes you can have, or don't hold the backlog of your episodes, you're cutting off so many ways to have possible ads or people want your show or even know about your show. Imagine if Right now, I'm at season 10 of She Gets It podcast, and I'm at season 10 of Cozy Womb podcast, and nobody has ever heard the first episode of Cozy Womb podcast or She Gets It. They'll have no fucking clue of what the show is about. Every time I get on there and I meet somebody, I would have to explain myself of what my show is about. So don't go on platforms that are going to cut off your backlog of your shows, because that makes no sense, especially SoundCloud. SoundCloud starting out, they'll let you go ahead and post there. And then when you get to a certain amount of episodes, they want to tell you how much you would have to pay in order for your podcast to be on SoundCloud. For me, SoundCloud's app is not really that great. I would never go to SoundCloud to listen to a podcast. So that really wasn't important for me as far as having my podcast on there. So I would never mind it. And I'm not saying that that might be something that's important for Greg. So I can't tell people don't use SoundCloud because SoundCloud doesn't work for me. That's personally my opinion. That might work for Greg. That might work for other podcasters. But for
That
me,
shit
I
do
don't
not
care.
work for me.
Okay. So like the numbers doesn't show in my analytics for Red Circle. It doesn't show in my analytics for iTunes. It doesn't show in my analytics when I go on Google and I do my own analytics for my website. And you should have a hub. You should have a second hub. Maybe it's a personal website of all the things that you're in. If you're selling merch, you should have a personal website where people can go where you're selling merch. If you have other shows, your website should show people that you have other shows and not just one show, because we all experienced the crash of Instagram twice last year. And if Instagram is the only place that you promote your show, you're cutting off your leg. If Twitter is the only place that you promote your show, you're cutting off your leg. So you have to have one place where people can come and figure out what it is that you're about, or your show, or you and your friends that do a show, whatever it is, have a place that nobody can be like, oh, the system is down. I'm sorry, you can't retrieve it. Oh, I'm sorry, the system is down. I'm sorry, those episodes seem like they don't exist right now. Because just like when you meet somebody in real life, your first impression as far as your show is going to be the lasting impression on a possible investor or somebody that might click a link on LinkedIn. Now, if you have an appropriate show that doesn't do a lot of like cussing and stuff, and people that are looking at your resume on LinkedIn and may possibly want to check out your show, I would say go ahead and post it on LinkedIn just so people know that this show does exist. But if it's something that you do not want to represent you professionally, I wouldn't put it on LinkedIn. That's just my opinion. I feel like I said a lot of shit.
Okay.
Greg, you still having your call?
Yeah, I'm still on the call.
So what else can I talk about that I haven't talked about? Okay, let me talk about Instagram and hashtagging. I think a lot of people put up posts on their page, but they don't hashtag it, so nobody will know that their show exists or that post exists. I feel like you need to hashtag your show. You do not need to download an app to be able to hashtag your show. There's a website called www.allhashtag.com, and it will automatically generate hashtags based upon the word that you put in on the search engine. So that's an easy way to hashtag. On Instagram, it'll only allow you to do up to 30 hashtags. When you do hashtags, you do not want to do the one that has, if babies has 6 billion and something people using hashtags, I don't want to use that because I'm going to be all down the list of what people are looking for when they put in babies. So you want to do the hashtags that are in the thousands of people using it, or maybe the hundreds of people using it, and make a hashtag that's unique for your show so people could come find your show. And when you post pictures, put the hashtag in the pictures so people can, connect the two and be like, okay, this is your show. I recommend people have a separate Twitter account for their show. I recommend people have a separate Instagram for their show, especially if you have your family on your personal Instagram and you don't want the world that is checking out your show to automatically see your kids. For me, I do have a separate podcast called Cozy Moon Podcast, which is about parenting. So sometimes I will post my kids on there. But if you try anything, I am a gun owner.
Me too.
I'm just, it depends on what you're into and what you want to post, but making consistent. Something that I'm finding when I see people on Clubhouse and they might have their Instagram page connected. If you tell me that you're a podcast mogul and I go on your Instagram page and I see that this is supposed to be your podcast Instagram page and I haven't seen an episode, I haven't heard an episode, but I see you taking a bunch of selfies. I see you getting a bunch of head to toe pictures and a whole photo shoot is on your page, but there's no content there. And then I see a whole bunch of posts about you doing like self-care graphics and all of this stuff, and you want to make sure your page is the right color and you want to make sure your page looks pretty. I don't care about that if you tell me that you're a podcast mogul, and you cannot tell me that you're a podcast mogul and you only have 17 posts and nothing on there is content. You have to have content on your page that's going to make people want to go ahead and find your show on something else and click it and listen to it. It could be snippets, it could be a picture, it can be short videos. But if I go on your page and all I see is selfies, I'm not going to check out your show. I'm just not. I don't care. I'm not going to check it out. If I go on your page and your bio, there's no bio, and it's just like a couple of followers, and the last time you post was 2017, I'm not going to check on your page, and I'm not going to check your podcast. I'm not. That's just me. Like, I don't, there's nothing about you that's making me want to go figure out what you're about. So yeah, that's all I have for that. I can't think of anything else that I need to say. Other than you just got to be your biggest pusher. You got to be the one that's pushing your own content for a while until people catch on. And then you're going to find that absolute strangers are going to find you, are going to be in discussions with you in threads and tweets and DMs, and they're going to follow your page, and they're going to be consistent commenters, and they might come on the Stereo Show and be consistent commenters. Shout out to E. Ruth and Greg and Corey and Kev, and just people who are consistent, who are showing up, who are always having your name in their mouth or your show in their mouth, and really about you just being better. And then you just evolve with the people that's on their shit. You know what I'm saying? You get better on better people. So I feel like I talked y'all head off. What? What? What do you want to eat? What snack, Anya? My child is in my house eating everything. She ate all the food that I cooked yesterday and didn't leave me anything. Listen, if you guys want to have enjoyable sex, have enjoyable sex. But if you don't want a gremlin eating all your food, what? No. If you don't want a gremlin eating all your food and leaving nothing for you to eat, don't have them. No. You may have some crackers. You may have a fruit, if there's a fruit in there, or a banana. And if you don't want that, you don't want a snack. Bye. She eats like a hog. Were you on a work call, Greg? Greg must be on a work call. But yeah, that's all I got to say about podcasting. To me, I think podcasting is fun. I think it's an easy thing to do. if that's something you want to do. But if you're doing it to keep up with the masses, you're not going to want to do it. You're going to be like the stereotypical, I created a podcast, I'm on my 7th episode, and I'll make my next episode in 3 more months. And if that's the case, then don't do it. A lot of people start podcasts and then they take a break and then they come back and they lose a whole audience, right? And I've started the podcast since 2018. The newest podcast that I have is So What Page Beyond Bit. And I haven't taken a break.
Is this Jaden's Crackers?
No, it's not Jaden's Crackers. But there's a thing of crackers already open in the fridge. Kids, man. But who is listening? And do you have any questions? Do you have any comments about podcasting? We talking about podcasting. Who we got in here? Mr. Midwest, Nausea, 669 Dark Matter, interesting name. Lenny B. Who else we got in here? Crucial Monette, Ernie Anes. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Thrax, what's up? We got Harry O, Detroit. Thank you for your comments. Dungeon. Who else we got in here? Jackie Henson. What's up? Kira, the hit elder. Okay. What makes you an elder? You 65 and up. J Murph. Jesse Slade. Touche. I remember Touche. JS. J Spin. G Spin. Where did I get J from? I don't know. B Hurley. Who else we got in here? Warren Welch. And listen, those chicken wings, if you eat all those chicken wings one sitting, ooh. All right. Make sure you have toilet tissue. Master Blinga. What's up? What's up? Stomp. Suki. Minaj. What's good? Asian doll. What's good? Real Trio. What's good? Lamar J. It's been a minute. I haven't seen your name in a while. Strapstar. Okay. You got straps? What kind of straps? Jock strap? Who else is in here? Fungo BX1. Fuego BX1. I took Spanish. Shit. What man? Stephen Benton. What's up? Shally May. I fucking hate Navians. Davo123. Who else is in here? Latent tendency. What? This person didn't even try. ABCDEFG Gregs. Okay. Tamara95. Who else is in here? Cassie. C Blair 97. Miss Ness. Miss Too Nice. What's up? Zaid. What's good? Motherfucking Block Pod. Are you a real podcast? Let me see. Let me click them. I don't know. Motherfucking Block Pod. I like that name. Dark Truth. You were on the night before last night with Ruth and Kev. You are an interesting fellow. Who else is here? It's Nate. We got Cinnamon Rolls up in here. My Opinion. King Malik. Johnny Cooley is here. Johnny Cool is here. It's Marcel though. Dayboy. B Gary 429. What's good? Who else is in here? Chosen Maine. King Cooley. The Artful Paul. The Artful Paul. Are you an artist? Yes, you are. Okay. Mott. Mo the Sala. Interesting. Lamb and JJ Music was good. Dragonfly was good. White Eyebrows, okay. Claudia was good. Free Mind. Tabitha was good. Ozzy. That's a good name for a doggy. P123. Haley was good. Aunt Tammy. If y'all have any questions about podcasting while I'm reading these people that are in here, I appreciate you guys coming through and checking out the show and listening. Just let me know. Come through. I did hear a message. I'm going to play it. Motu, Elena, Sam Squatch. Okay. So today is, what is today? Is today Monday? Yes, today is Monday. And we have about 9 live listeners. Total listeners that came through today is 1111. Look that up, see the meaning. Talking time, you've been on here for 1 hour and 30 minutes. Thank you guys for falling through. Prince Codios, what's up?
Quick question, just to throw it out there. Just what okay, for me, like podcasting, I never really got into the whole like listening to podcasting like that. So, my first thing was of course like talk radio. Like I used to love talk radio, and I used to love the Two Live Stews. That was my thing. There was two brothers that lived in Atlanta, and they just did their thing. But what was your like first podcast experience or radio experience that you kind of fell in love with, just listening to people talking their views and shit? And don't say Wendy Williams. I'm just playing.
I would never. That girl is a Sasquatch. I don't even know if that's a woman. Okay, so my first podcast that I ever listened to was The Read, and I thought they were like utterly ridiculous. I've always hated what you call its laugh, because I felt like it's always forced, even though she's trying to say that that is her laugh. Nobody in this nation of life, of human life, laughs like that. So between you and me, that laugh is forced, but they usually have good topics, and I like when they read people that are full of shit and they need to be checked. So that was like my first podcast. And then my second most loved podcast would have to be Tax Stone. So if you have a chance, look up Tax Stone's podcast and just listen to that man just not have any couth, is what your grandparents called it, and just say what he wants to say and tell you how he wants to tell you about yourself, about women, about how people do business, about people being grimy, and just on. It felt like I was pulling up to somebody's stoop. I'm from up north. The outside of your house where you have steps and stuff is called a stoop instead of a porch. And you pulling up to somebody's stoop and you're sitting there and you're just hearing people talk about real life shit. So I did love Tax Stone and The Read. So those were the first two podcasts that I listened to. And then it started evolving where I will Google new podcasts and I will listen. Still to this day, I'll immerse myself, preferably Sundays, into new podcasts just to listen to what their show is about, why people would want to listen, and how they're doing their flow of their shows, so I can see if they have something interesting to add to the table. But I'm always checking out new podcasts. But that is another great measurement of standards of what you should do. If you hear something that you would like and you would think people would like you to be more clear about your intro, or have music here, or put something here, or have this segment here, or just evolving. And evolving could be, okay, this season I didn't do this, I would like to add on this portion just to see how the people like it. And always ask for feedback. I think asking for feedback from your listeners is very smart, good or bad, so you can basically filter out what you need to do and what you don't need to do. Hello, Greg.
I am back, ladies and gentlemen. I want to apologize personally. I had a matter, a tax matter. So hopefully, you guys didn't miss me too much, but I'm back. I'm definitely back. Thank you, Shan, for actually, holding it down. Jesus Christ.
My throat is dry. My throat is never dry.
You know what? That is. I have nothing. I thought I was gonna have a rebuttal. I do not. You talked about a lot though. I appreciate the fact that you did, because I was like, oh, Shan is going in. She is unloading the clip. I don't know where to pick up at. Throw something at me, Shane, and I will go and try to like give my little take on it.
You can talk to them about your opinion on Instagram or on where they find their shows. Greg, I'm not Greg because you are Greg. Kev asked me what was your first podcast that you listened to.
So the first podcast I listened to, I remember the first five actually, so I can get those. The Blackout Tips, Morbid, True Crime Garage, Where's My 40 Acres, and Straight Outta Low Cash. Those were my first five podcasts. I liked the read. I still like the read. I enjoy them. I just don't listen to them as much because I feel like you will eventually outgrow a podcast. I've done that many times where I've gone and loved the show. I've listened to them for years, and then just like you wouldn't like any other thing, you kind of outgrow it. And that's just how it felt with a lot of those. The Blackout Who Tips, I still listen. My issue though is the fact that it kind of like it's on Spotify only. And you know my rule about Spotify. Not only do I not fuck with Spotify, I just don't like the way that they handle their podcast. So I've kind of eliminated the Spotify app, but I will check in for the Black Apple Tips. So maybe once a week I'll download the app and I'll listen to all the episodes consecutively. So, you know, usually their Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday show I'll listen to on Saturday, and then the Saturday and Sunday show I'll listen to on Sunday. So that's usually how I listen to them. Straight Outta Low Cash hasn't really been the same since they don't have the crew together. So I listen to them, but they have multiple network shows. And that's kind of how I patented Young Black and Bothered. So shout out to Straight Outta Low Cash. It started as just like the guys shooting the shit, and then it was like, okay, we're gonna have like women perspectives. We're gonna have different shows about different things, and that's where they've kind of like turned themselves from Straight Outta Low Cash to SLOC Network. And once they did that, I was like, oh great, I'm getting shows about shit that I never knew about. So I listen to them still to this day. So shout out to them. I listen to, God, like honestly, any black podcast, I give them a try. But there are some podcasts who are kind of how we used to be. Us on Young Black and Bothered, I tell people the first 12 episodes were rough. They were definitely rough. I think one of our first 10 episodes, one episode was 4 hours and 40 minutes long. And anybody who starts a podcast is like, how long is a podcast supposed to be? Don't listen to them, because if the content is good, it can be 30 minutes or it can be 2 hours, and people will listen to that shit. And if they don't, they'll come back next week, or they'll listen to how much they can. Except for that episode. That episode, we were drunk. I think we said bitch 117 times on that show. We were very misogynistic, and we lacked growth. And that was what, 2018?
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Do you ever go back to your first episode and like add in a better intro or clean up like the ending of you going through flows?
Nope. I treat my old episodes like the unreleased catalog. Like, hey, they're out, so I can't really like take them back from people, and I don't want to edit them. I just try to improve with the ones that are going forward. But the reason why I keep them up is because it's something that I treasure. So we started the podcast a month before I got married. Basically, you know, we got back from the bachelor party, and the guys were like, "Oh, well, Greg, why don't you do a podcast? You're always talking about, podcasts and listening to them. So why don't you?" So we started the podcast, and next thing you know, it just took off. So then my wedding weekend, well, the wedding day actually, my friend Nick, shout out to him, he goes and he's like, Greg, where's your phone? And I had brought podcast equipment because at this time I'm like, okay, we're going to take it seriously. Why don't we just record something, the night before the wedding? But obviously everybody's drunk, so I couldn't get them to do anything. So the day of the wedding, everybody's getting dressed, and Nick is like, you know what, Greg, hand me your phone, hand me the microphone. So he has the microphone in one hand and the phone in another. And it's all plugged together, and he is just recording everybody just having fun, talking and shooting the shit. He's asking them, what's your perspective on this and this and this and this? And that is the infamous episode, so Greg's getting married. I think that's like episode like 6 or 7. And ever since then, I've tried to be as consistent as possible. So the podcast has been a journey between, the marriage, the wedding, having a baby up till now. So it's kind of been like my diary of life. We went through the Trump presidency on the podcast. We went through like Black Lives Matter rallies and things like that through the podcast. We talked about things like First 48, our Dope segments, sports, new, all the shit that happened throughout the year. Instead of getting that end of the year recap, I know for a fact that when I go back and listen to those episodes, I can be like, you know what? I was here when that happened. I did this when it happened, and it feels incredible. So for anybody who used to journal or they like do a diary or something like that, podcasting can be like your time capsule on things. Certain things you'll learn from it if you go back and listen to them. Like I said earlier about that episode that was 4 hours and we kept saying bitch and shit like that. Listening back to it now, I can cringe and be like, yo, like I grew from that. Like I was a piece of shit. Like it was really bad. And now listening to it, I'm like, yo, like, I've grown as a man, as a person. And that happens with podcasting. And listening to other shows, you get a different perspective. Like versus going on like Fox 5 or CNN to get your news, listening to other black people talk about politics and news and sports and entertainment. I'm like, I don't have to listen to Skip Bayless. There are people who are knowledgeable about the shit, and I don't have to watch the same 15 different opinions every day. Cool, I'm listening to that shit. I got into fantasy football again, listening to a podcast called The Fantasy Footballers. And they tell me, hey, this is the person that you should be playing. This person's going to be injured. This is shit like that is why podcasting is great. Clubhouse, even though we shit on Clubhouse because there are more cons than pros, there are little nuggets that I take from it, and I love the app for it. The only issue I wish that they had is just recording the show. If they did that, I would no longer be on stereo. I can guarantee you that. I would honestly build a tribe from here and take it to Clubhouse. We can record from there. We can talk from there. We can shoot the shit. And then you don't have to worry about, Greg taking too long to talk and then pressing the voicemail button. That is the beauty in Clubhouse. But all in all, man, like I'm one of those fans of podcasting and podcasts that I can look at an app like I think Pocket Cast. Let me go to it right quick. So according to
question.
So it says on pod. Oh, go ahead.
I have a question. Do you think Clubhouse is waiting for someone to purchase the app before they approve?
Yeah. The thing is, Oprah invested in it early, and the reason why she invested in it, to me, not to anything else, I think Oprah invested into it because she knew for a fact that she is connected with Apple, and she did this knowing that either they're going to be acquired by Apple or Apple is going to inquire about purchasing them. That's why they have that $1 billion valuation. I found that out, when you and I talked earlier. If Clubhouse gets purchased, it's going to be like anything else, but it's coming. I'll say I give it maybe 4 months, and Clubhouse is going to be acquired. They did everything that a business would do in order to be acquired. I don't know if you remember, maybe like 9 or 10 years ago. Excuse me. So 9 or 10 years ago, Facebook and all those social media apps, they weren't on Android first. It was everything like, iPhone exclusive. Clubhouse is that way. There's so many people who have Androids, who have iPads and signed up, and they can only use Clubhouse from their iPad. That's how bad people want to be on it. But stereo, it's Android and it's iPhone.
There's people on Clubhouse on their mom's phones and their sisters.
Yes.
I'm just like,
mm-hmm. But those are the people who are telling you that, you need to go on with your podcast and create T-shirts. Those are the people who are trying to make them. No bullshit. There's so many people on like Clubhouse, and it's like, yo, what was that meme? I think I posted it last night on Facebook. So a dude said that he went on Clubhouse, and he went into one of those chats about how to be a millionaire, and he asked the people who were doing the chat, "Are any of y'all millionaires?" And they kicked him out. But that's some shit that I would ask. Like, imagine you be in a room full of people telling you how to make money, and they're all broke.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that shit.
That's like all the trade people and make money in a week on such and such that be coming in my DMs blocked.
Mm-hmm. So the tweet says, I joined a room on Clubhouse talking about the secret of millionaire and wealth creation. I raised my hand and asked if any of the moderators is a millionaire, and they removed me from the room, shaking my head. That is my type of carrying on. That is my type of carrying on. The reason why is those are questions I ask. Like, in those Clubhouse rooms, like the reason why Homeboy today specifically, he didn't have anybody else on stage is because he wants to outshine other podcasters. I don't. My thing is the more the merrier, because as a listener, as a fan of podcasts, I want to see if you're going to show and prove. Like, shout out to our boy Detroit. He said, yo, I got a podcast. I'm not going to silence him because he's like, oh, I want to shout out my show and I want people to follow it. I
Some
want people to follow
do
his
that.
shit.
You can't be on here promoting yourself like
Think about it.
that's
If you
why
don't promote yourself, nobody else will.
I don't like Facebook clubs because or rooms or whatever they have pages for podcasts because they are put in the rules. Don't come on here and promote your podcast. Then why the fuck are we here?
Yeah. Oh, them podcast groups on Facebook are the worst. They be telling you everything that you should buy. I'm like, yo, nobody should buy this. Or they be telling people, oh, well, leave this and do this. I'm like, no, just focus on the content. It's not that hard. Like, if you just focus on your content, everything else flows. And promote, promote, promote. I'll be in the middle of conversations and, I'll be like, yo, I got a podcast tonight. And I'll bring up the podcast just because. I don't want to be like facetious and evil about it. But hey, by the way, since you're here, you need to go ahead and listen to Young Black and Bothered. You need to listen to She Gets It Pod. She needs to go, you need to listen to a whole bunch of stuff that we do. Because if you bring people up with you, then nobody can deny you. Like Baylor and I, we became friends because I reached out to him, on Twitter. I was like, yo, like, I've heard him on other people's show leaving comments and stuff like that. So I commented to him. Next thing you know, he and I are doing shows. Forget that, yo, we've done shows. Paco. Never met Paco a day in my life, but I know for a fact he's like family to me. Nobody can tell me shit about nobody that, runs with our crew. Because I don't want to say I vet them, but it's more so it's like, yo, like, I know a connection when I see them. And you and I, like, I feel like we're not only just a duo that gets it, but you get it. You're not one of those people who just, as a podcaster is like overbearing. You're just like, oh, I'm just a woman who likes the podcast. And, depending on the topic, either people fuck with it or they don't. But for the most part, they fuck with it because you get it. But, all in all, man, like, for me, those were, to answer the question, those were my podcasts that I do listen to. And I do fuck with them. There are podcasts that I've listened to for years, and nobody knows about them. I won't say nobody, but they're not big. They're not Joe Rogan. And they like to keep it that way. Like Hot Firestarter. So when I found out about them, the reason I found out was because they were the creators and they are the makers of the hashtag Them Thrones. So Them Thrones is a hashtag that was a big controversy when Game of Thrones, like the last 2 or 3 seasons came out. Because what happened was there was this whole rift over who can use Them Thrones. And then another group, I can't remember, it was like a group of ladies who they didn't like the fact that Hot Firestarter said that they created the hashtag Them Thrones, even though they did. So what happened was the women decided that they were going to create a hashtag called Thrones Y'all, and that didn't catch on. So since it didn't catch on, like people still were using Them Thrones. But the issue is people weren't giving Hot Firestarter that credit. They weren't giving them the credit that they deserve. Now, sure, people will be like, oh, it's a hashtag. It's not that serious. Trust me, it's that serious. If you create something and you know for a fact you were the starter of that shit, people need to give you credit. Do you remember, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, actually I think it was last year, that girl who created that viral TikTok dance, and they were not trying to give her credit, and the white girls were going and doing their own TikTok versions of it, and they got famous, and they were on the music videos and shit like that. Meanwhile, the black girl who created it, they weren't giving her no credit, they weren't mentioning her. But then our community, podcasters, like people on social media, they said, yo, give that girl her credit. What happened? Right. She's at the NBA All-Star game, and it took us to do that shit. That's why, for me, I campaign for every black podcast, big, small, or indifferent. From the Black Guy Who Tips to Joe Button, from Joe Button to She Gets It Pod, from She Gets It Pod to Young Black and Bothered, Positive Filter, Forget That Yo, BTG for President, Nuts and Guts podcast. Honestly, if Jesus had a podcast, I listen to that stuff too.
Because if you look at Apple Podcasts and you go in the top 100 of any podcast, you don't see primarily black podcasters.
That's why I don't use.
And when I make podcast recommendations on Twitter and I put podcast recommendations for black podcasters, I'm not saying I don't want to promote any other ethnicity of podcasters, but I'm saying we need to promote us because there's no other platform that I see consistently promoting us other than Black Pod Collective or smaller entities. But on like platforms, you don't see us.
Yep. And that right there is why it's another reason why I don't like Apple Podcasts. Um, not just them, but just like
You
what I
know what?
see.
Let me say something, Greg, and then you can say what you're saying. I don't mean to interrupt.
Mm,
If they pull some shit out they ass and try to do that shit for February, I'm cussing.
but you know they're going to. You know for a fact
I'm
they're going to.
I'm cussing.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Like right now, if you go on Google, right, you can go to Google and type in best podcast of 2020. When you click Google and you click that, you type that in, it says popular on the web. It says Freaks Anonymous, Stuff You Should Know, The Daily, 99% Invisible, How I Built This, No Such Thing as Fish. Here's the thing. When you are a popular podcast already and they keep promoting you as you're a popular podcast, you're going to get more listens. It's like the leaderboard on stereo. If they keep promoting you, like I don't even follow some of the people that they promote. I get an alert. I'm like, yo, I know for a fact I don't even fucking follow that person. How am I getting their alerts? And it's like, oh, well, somebody, this is a popular talk right now. Go and join. No, I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear it at all. Um, for me though, the whenever I looked at those like list of the best podcasts, they're all white, and I don't mind having white podcasts on there because they are good podcasts. Like Joe Rogan, good podcast, but does he need to be on the list? Absolutely fucking not. Like there's a podcast that was listed as the best podcast in 2020, and it's called Couples Under Lockdown. I'm gonna read you what it says. So it says, excuse me, the
That's you.
psychotherapist and thank you. The psychotherapist and beloved podcaster Esther Perel arrived with Couples Under Lockdown at the height of this year's pandemic. When mandated quarantining hit much of the world, so did new feelings about isolation, marriage, moving, safety, and control. Perel demonstrates how to deal with these emotions by putting the root cause of the relationship woes under the microscope. So this is where it gets better. So it says just before the crisis, one couple relocated to Lagos, Nigeria, where they wrestle with balancing their emotional needs against the American privilege and the poverty surrounding them. Another couple in New York started to divorce before COVID-19 and now can't fully separate, heal, or pursue new relationships while safely co-parenting their children. You pretty much told me I don't want to listen to that shit. Now, mind you, I don't know
Yeah.
if the hosts are black and white or nothing like that. Honestly, I don't care. My issue is this. The way that you describe that, some people might like that, but how does that show something that you know for a fact 50 other shows can do the exact same thing in 1 or 2 episodes? They made a season of this. So let me look at couples. Let me see how many episodes they have. So right now, they were listed as one of the best podcasts of 2020. They have, let me see, they have 10 episodes per season. They're on season 4. So 2020 they had 2019. So since 2019 they've had 30 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
30 episodes. Somebody be like, you know what? That's good. They do 20 episodes, 30 episodes. Cool. My issue is you've done 30 episodes in 2 years. There are people who are putting out fucking content every week. And not every podcast is created equally. My issue though is you promote shit like this. Promote list, the Cam Chronicles, Floundering Network, NPR, The Cut, 2 minutes past 9, Extra Spicy, Dying for Sex. If that's your favorite show, be my guest. My issue though is there is a need rather of black podcasts on Apple Podcasts app. There is no column for it, there's no like category for it, and there should be, because Apple at every whim they will tell you how much they do Black Lives Matter, how they donated to a black cause, how they do this for black people. I'm like, yo, we can't even be in the top 100 on Apple Podcasts, and if we are, it's true crime, it's The Read, it's people who are already established, but there are people out here doing fucking work right now. I can open my app and give you 15 podcasts that are better than the top 100. Ranting and Raving with Yamanika. She's never in the top 100. I don't get
I
it.
love her. She's so funny.
MTR Network, never in the top 100. Angela Yee's Lip Service, never in the top 100. The TK Kirkland
Everybody
Show, the
that.
mundane. I'm going to run down. I have to. I'm sorry. I have to run down a list of some podcasts that I want people to check out. You don't have to, but I would suggest it because not only am I a fan, they have been consistent. And your
Yeah.
number one thing for people that you listen to podcasts, they have to have consistency. The Black Guy Who Tips, Jaden XD, Where's My 40 Acres, Black Astronauts Podcast, Ranting and Raving with Yamanika. I'll even
Yes.
give you the Brilliant Idiots if you do not follow them. Who else do we have? Who else do we have? The Friend Zone. Angela Yee's Lip Service, Medium Popcorn, Black Men Can't Jump, Powercast. If you were a fan of listening to like watching the Power Show, listen to the Powercast. I absolutely
Mike
fuck with that
Tyson's
show.
podcast is really good too.
Yeah. You said which one?
Mike Tyson's podcast.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Hold on. I think this is time for me to go to Castro because clearly this is not working for me. One second.
Go.
I have to go in because I just feel like it's necessary at this point. Because when people, I can't say, I hate list and I hate the fact that we don't get on list, but then not list black podcasts. So I guess my app doesn't want to work. So let me go onto the app on my phone. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. This will be the point where they have to edit it and post. Let me go back. The Shaq podcast. So the big podcast with Shaq. That's a good one. The Two Uncool podcast is the number 2 Uncool. So that is a absolutely fantastic podcast that I fuck with. I feel like not only do they give good content, it's consistent. So what other ones do we have? Thanks for asking. It used to be 2 girls that were on the show. Now it's just one. And that show to me is probably one of my favorite one-person podcasts other than She Gets It Pod. I absolutely love them. The show Medium Popcorn that I was telling you about, there was a show that they did before called The Comedy Outliers, but I don't believe that they do that show anymore. Brothers Talking Shit, The Podium Podcast, Conspiracy Theories and Unpopular Culture, Off the Record Podcast, The Rewatchables, What's the Tea with Nick Jew. That's one of my favorite fucking podcasts. Blacker Than Black Times and those as well. SLOC, I said them already. They have a wrestling pass. You black and you like wrestling show to check out. Obviously, Young Black and Bothered. You got Horrible Decisions. Who else do we have? 19 Keys. That is a good podcast as well. So 3 Guys On. Obviously, the Black Guy Who Tips. Tamara the Dawn. I think she has a show still. Like, there's a lot of fucking black podcasts that do not get their credit. And Godfrey We Trust, Questlove Supreme. He has a show. Questlove fucking podcast. He's never on the list. Accelerate to Great. That's one of my favorite ones as well. The Brown Liquor Podcast. If you are a whiskey connoisseur, if you just honestly like people shooting the shit, talking shit, and having good fun for less than 2 hours, that is a good show. Getting Grown. Like, I haven't checked them out in a while, but I know when I did, they were a great show. Bomani Jones, I know you might listen to him on ESPN, but he has his own podcast. So I would check out Bomani Jones if you listen to him. If your mom, the best way to get your parents, if you have a black parent, to start listening to podcasts, just tell them, you know what? Steve Harvey has a podcast. She don't even have to know that it's the same does on the radio. He just puts it in podcast form. Right there. Best of Steve Harvey. DMST podcast. So that's like DC based. So you got that podcast. You have Nerd Plate, Man School 202, Scam Goddess. So ladies, if you're a scammer, or if you just honestly just want to hear a woman shit, Scam Goddess.
That was a read.
Yo, there's some shit for everybody. There's a podcast called Black Men Don't Cheat. Now,
that's a lie.
You can take that for what it is. Yeah. So their most recent episode I was listening to, the episode 62, it was called You Come Around, You Wouldn't Bust It. So I'm going to just let y'all take that title for what it is and just go and listen to the episode. The shit was fucking fire. Oh my God. And here's the thing. The episode was about 1 hour and 45 minutes. Every fucking second of that show was fantastic. Flip the Script podcast, they did an interview with Benzino. I absolutely do not like Benzino, but he did an absolutely good episode for that, for Flip the Script. Meet Us After 7, that's a good show. Black Girls Talk Sports, because for some reason, I don't know why people just think women don't watch sports. They do. And they probably have better analysis than men. So shout out to Black Girls Talk Sports. Roland Martin has a podcast. I would check that out. We got Black Wrestling, Black Friday, Brothers Comics. So if you are a fan of Marvel and you've been listening, or if you watch WandaVision, I honestly I watched. I wasn't really entertained the first episode, but I have to watch episode 3 tonight. The second one I'm going to watch after we get off here. Great show.
Mm-hmm.
Great show. Go watch, go listen to Brothers Comics. The Unofficial Experts. That is a good fucking podcast. It's 2 women that do the show. I think her name is Shalua. Shalua, I think that's what her name is. So Sydney, no, that's the guest that they had. So Sydney Washington and Marie Falston. And Getting Grown. Look at this.
Yeah.
The Love Hour. So if you are a couple, or even if you're single and you just want to hear a couple just shoot the shit, The Love Hour. There's also, I forgot what the other, it's a married couple. I just get the name off the top of my head. I'm gonna think about it and come back, but I know they have one. B. Scott. I know a lot of people cancel her and they don't really fuck with her like that no more. She has a podcast. Black Men. People tell you to use Calm and Headspace, but there is a Black Therapy podcast for us. It is actually called Black Guy Therapy.
I think
this is the show that you need to hear. I need all Black men to have some form of therapy. Podcasting can be your therapy. There's a podcast for therapy called Black Guy Therapy. It's really that simple. There's a show Black Dude, White Dude with obviously a black guy and a white guy.
All
that was
Black
good as too.
Have to listen to Wild Black.
See, look at you. I'm telling you, it's just there. I wish I could tell. What else we got? 8 Black Hands, obviously 85 South. Everybody listens to that. Above the Rim podcast. Shout out to my boy. He's on there. Advice from a Fuckboy. I haven't listened in a while, but shout out to Clint. He does a great podcast. I told you about Forget That Yo. What'd you say?
He pissed me off one night. I was like, okay, I'm not following it.
Oh no. He must have said something real derogatory.
He was emotional about him doing a comedy show or whatever, and him a podcast, and he basically invited friends out, and they came. He did a poker game, and a lot of them really didn't care about it, didn't support it, and he was mad that he always grinding so hard for himself, and he got all these friends, and they basically belittle the shit that he doing or don't give him the support that he's looking for, and he's always supporting them. And I'm just like, yes, that is fucked up. And he was on a live, and I commented, maybe you need better friends.
Yep.
Because your real friends are not going to make you feel small about the shit that you're doing that's really great. And he does put a lot of effort into his shows, and I did enjoy his shows. But his comment was, man, maybe I need better friends. Well, why don't you come? He's like, why don't you come get me some better friends then, since you know so much? I said, oh, okay. So you in your feelings. Like,
you in your feelings about the truth.
Every comment that he made to anybody that was trying to say something encouraging was very negative. I'm just like, sir, you don't need to be on live. You need to put your phone down. You need to go ahead and decompress. And then you need to go ahead and maybe put all this energy that you have into an episode. But he was so fucking negative. It was a turn off. And I was like, no, I'm good.
See? Well, the next episode, I hope that he's grown since then. So I will listen to his most recent and hope he's grown. But shout out to Clint, shout out to him, because, we do not want to start no party here. This is all constructive criticism. And right now,
He's from Philly, so I was supporting him from Philly.
Yeah. Let me see. Who else we got? We got Bodega Boys, obviously. We have the Brown Liquor Podcast. Brothers in Law. So if you, are into law, if you school, if you I don't know if anybody's familiar with Ray Carruth. The podcast, I don't want to say they're no longer doing new episodes, but it was a great look into the Ray Carruth case. I would check that out. I'm really not a fan of DJ Envy, and I don't know why. I feel like he's a great person outside of the show, but he has a show, The Casey Crew. I listened to 3 episodes, and I was like, yo, it's just not for me. It may be for somebody else. It just personally was not for me.
Yeah, I can't.
I don't know how. It just wasn't my jam.
So he was doing with his wife.
Oh no, I didn't see that. I
It's a
saw
show that his
something
wife.
about him apologize. The Casey crew.
I'm just like, don't nobody want to hear this. Like, y'all live y'all life
Yeah.
with y'all 13 kids and y'all businesses and
Hmm.
y'all great and black, but we don't need to hear y'all on the podcast. We good.
Yeah. So I'm gonna keep going down this list because I feel like it's really important that people actually start when you start listening to podcasts, or if you've never listened to black podcasts, these are the
Mhm.
ones you need to follow. I follow a lot. I have a category in my podcast app called Black Pods, and there are no white podcasts in here. There are no true crime that is not black. There's a black podcast called Crime in Color. It is hosted by two black people, a man and a woman, and they talk nothing but crimes. Because yes, black people do crimes. However, we never actually see the crimes, in full detail explained by white people. They talk about the ones like, the Bay Area rapist, or, the what is it, the Boston Strangler and stuff like that. I want to hear about some black crimes, and I want to hear about like they did a show about Kanika Jenkins, and that
Kanika,
gave me perspective. I didn't.
with that freeze, sit with that
Yep.
name. Kanika.
Yep.
Kanika about her
Yep.
business. Kanika will cut you in the throat.
Yep.
Kanika will step on you like you were
Hmm.
garbage. Okay, you could continue.
Yeah. Yeah. So what other ones we got? We got Comedy Trap House. I absolutely fuck with them. We got Crown and Collards. We have the CSPN. That is a great show. Dead Ass with Kadeen and DeVille. I listen to Dead Ass every once in a while. I don't listen to every show. I will
Oh
admit
yeah, yeah.
that. You got
Have a good show.
yeah.
Oh, don't
We
forget
have
cocktails.
oh
Cocktails.
oh my God. Yes,
HBO,
cocktails.
where they
Cocktails.
talk about everything. Hello, what is it? Her name? Oh my God, I'm getting a Kiki and what is her name? Oh my God, Coffee Bean Dean. There you go.
Mm. Now, I'm gonna let you play a voicemail because I don't want to keep naming names. I want you to
Okay.
get these off. So go ahead and hit that button.
Man, I don't know what it is about it. Before y'all, I could never just sit down and listen to a podcast for like an hour. I don't know what y'all are doing, but you're doing something right.
You gotta
So
find.
yeah, keep it up, y'all. Pretty cool.
Thank you. You gotta
I
find one that.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the
On the
best
behalf of
way. Oh, go
Smoking
ahead.
Mirrors Uncut, I just followed you guys. I followed Young Black and Bothered, and I followed the Cozy Ones. So
Thank
follow
you.
us back. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. Chill.
Follow back. Follow back. What are you gonna say?
We
Sorry.
definitely will. Oh, what he was saying about and shout out to Detroit, but the guy previously, he was saying he doesn't know how he can listen to a podcast an hour at a time. Honestly, it's easy. The shit that you regularly do, like if you
Mhm.
washing clothes, you folding clothes, listen to a podcast. You going on a walk, listen to a podcast. If you're going to drive to work, instead of turning on the radio or XM radio, turn on the podcast. I'm telling it honestly, you might hate music after listening to podcasts. A lot of people have told me they don't listen to music anymore because it's just more entertaining having like people that are in your ear that you don't have to respond to. That's what a podcast started for me as. It started as, you know what? I can hear what people are saying, I can agree with what people are saying, but they don't have to get my reaction.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've absolutely loved it. I have not. Let me hold on. I forgot to give you the stat. Give me 1 second. So, according to the stats in my Pocket Cast app, and I haven't used this app in over a year. So
Mm-hmm.
it said since July 28, 2016, I had listened to 76 days of podcast.
Oh shit.
76 days. During which time an astronaut sneezed 759 times. You know how to give you that little quick quip, like a fact, right? So in the midst of me listening to 76 days of podcast, I've saved 9 days and 12 hours by using the trim silent feature. With the fact that I listen at like 2 times the speed, I've saved myself 24 days and 7 hours, and I've skipped 9 hours and 30 minutes of bullshit. That
I'm through.
is why I love, because all those apps, Apple Podcasts, the one thing that they don't, the two things rather that they don't do is they do not have these features. The two features that I tell anybody who listens to podcasts, you want an app that gives you smart speed, and the dead space. So right now, like if I pause and I say nothing, I'm just like when you listen to the podcast, you won't hear that because it automatically cuts it out for you.
Yeah.
That is why I love those apps. But we got voicemails. I'm gonna let you play them, and I'm gonna put a couple more on the list.
Okay.
Oh, I think I forgot to say I follow you guys on Instagram. If I didn't say it, yeah.
Got you. Thank you.
We love going back and listening to our old episodes just because of the journey. Listen to where we were when we first began to where we are now. It's just the content is a little different, but the approach, the delivery, everything is a lot different, smoother. At the beginning, of course, it's choppy because it's so new. You really don't know how to speak on the mic. It's just you just really have to just be normal, be your normal self. But yeah, the growth, the journey is the best part of listen to your old episodes all the way to your new. I mean, our first episode, our audio was god awful, but now if you listen to our audio, it's on point. I'll tell you what, after the fourth episode, audio was on point. But yeah, the growth is the most important. The journey is it has to be important for you for your podcast to grow and get better. The journey.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Once you hit that stride, man, I'm telling you. And everybody who podcasts, they have a favorite episode of theirs, and it's usually the ones that either just started the show or something where it's like something obligatory. It's never like episode 50, episode 100, episode 200. It's always like 74. And you're like, yo, why was that? And it's like, yo, we just had the most fun talking about that. Like Shannon and I, like the shows that her and I have done. I'm like, I know some of my favorite ones. Like the If Black Men Ain't Shit, Why Can't They Have Them? That was one of our most recent shows. Absolutely fucking love that show. The reason why I liked the show was because obviously stereo in the comments. We did a show like earlier, like well late last year about like men and women lose interest when. That was like a 4.5 hour podcast. We had to break it into two parts. It was so good.
Yeah.
Love that fucking show. We did a show we did a show last year, and it might be in my top like 10 favorite episodes ever of anything I've done on Young Black and Bothered. It was the episode that we called Lil Kiss Kiss, where the dude came in the comments. No, that was Mike Check. That was Mike Check. So there was a dude who came in, and he called himself Lil Kiss Kiss. He was just talking for like an hour and a half about being called Lil Kiss Kiss. And Shane, you chimed in, Baylor chimed in. It was so many people who chimed in.
Because
But
it was
then
fun.
what made yeah, no, but here's the thing. What happened immediately after that show though, we did the show called Y'all Love Y'all a Jody. And you came up with that slogan. So ever since then, that's been one of my favorite shows. Honestly, let me see it. Let me go down. Let me go down the list. Play another voicemail. I'm gonna try to like look at from episodes 200 to 285 and try to figure out my favorite episode.
Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon. What's going on, Greg? How you doing? I guess I have to do it. Miss
And
iPod. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I just finished eating. But good afternoon. Good afternoon. How you guys doing? Just passing through.
we good.
Shout out to Shamik.
What's up?
Yo, I
So
always
I just
felt that
found it.
way with
I
like
just
life
found it.
coaches. Like, unless you have some kind of Nobel Peace Prize or a gazillionaire, and I don't even really care about the money. It's really about the everything else. But you know what I'm saying? At least if you don't got none of that going, then it's shit.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Greg. When's the next sport desk? I got some more
Yeah.
Kyrie sightings. I need to send you.
Mm.
My podcast isn't
Uh-oh.
popping like that, but if y'all can give me a
So
listen, it's called
Shamik,
Adam Chris
what's the
Brand, 80 AM CHRIS Brand. Thanks.
And it is in his profile, adamchrisbrand.com.
mm, 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 mm.
Homie said, when is your next course test?
So hold on, let me sports desk will actually tonight. It will be at 8:05. Obviously after we play this voicemails, I'm to give them 10 more 10 more like podcasts, and then I can do, we can continue like listing off, some of your favorites, some of mine, because I gotta spend some time with the baby, gotta feed her, gotta shower, things like that. But
That
I'm gonna give them 10 more, but we're gonna get these voicemails.
okay.
Do you guys know anything about like biology? Cause my test is tomorrow.
Nope, you better Google, honey. You got a Wi-Fi? You clearly got Wi-Fi. You on your phone. Google.
Yes.
Irizu, he is just speaking facts. Facts.
Facts.
Okay. Shout out to me.
Hey, Greg. So, what's a good podcast app outside of iHeart and Spotify? What's a good podcast app I could download to my phone?
Um, it depends on the phone. So I tell people, like, regardless if you have an Android or an iPhone, probably the best app is Pocket Cast. The reason for that is because it has every podcast. And if you have like a SoundCloud podcast or something like that that you're following, they're not on. You can't find a lot of SoundCloud ones on Apple Podcasts, but you can find them on Pocket Cast. So they're probably the best one if you have both an Android or an iPhone. Me personally, I have an iPhone and I have an iPad. So my personal favorite is Castro because as a podcaster and as a fan of listening to podcasts, I like to share little like quick like moments of shows that people aren't going to listen to because they might not like the show. So, for example, like Shan, she'll post like a clip on Apple Podcasts and she'll like have to screen record. I don't have to do that. I can just go share it and then put it on social media. That's why I keep trying to tell Shan get Castro, but she don't want to listen to me. But it's okay. It's all right. It's all right. But for me, Castro is my number one podcast app. I love that app so much. I'm a fan of it. I like the icons of it. I like the layout of it. Honestly, stereo right now, if you open stereo and then you open Castro, you would be confused because they both look the same. It's simple buttons, it's simple gestures, and it just looks good. Overcast, I like it too, but my issue is it's kind of dated and they haven't I don't want to say updated the app, but it looks like an app from like 2016, 2017. Remember when Instagram just looked like just old as shit? That's what Overcast looks like, but it's the best app. So if you want to get the best sound quality and you want all the features without the beautiful buttons and shit like that, Overcast is the one. If you have an Android phone, Pocket Cast. Some people will say Castbox. I don't like Castbox. Apple Podcasts, I absolutely hate them. I don't use Spotify at all. Anybody who knows me knows I do not fuck with Spotify at all. So please avoid Spotify. If you do have a favorite show on there, go ahead and listen to them on there, but then get off. Go and listen elsewhere. The rule of thumb, listen to your podcast at like 1.2 times the speed. You will save yourself a lot of hassle. Like a lot of the shit that it could take you an hour to listen to a show. You can finish that shit in 30 minutes by just speeding it up just a little bit. It's not going to make them sound like Mickey Mouse. It's not going to sound really long. It's perfect. It feels like the cadence is right at 1.2. So start listening to your podcast at 1.2. Even on Apple Podcasts, it sounds good. But me, I listen at 2 times the speed. So again, Castro, Overcast, Pocket Cast. Breaker was a good one, but they just got purchased by Twitter, so don't deal with them anymore. So does that. Those are my top apps. Do not be like Chad.
Hey, Greg, could you spell that for me? Can you that last one, Castro? Can you spell that for me?
Yeah. So like Fidel Castro, it's spelled Castro. So it is spelled Castro. So Castro. It is on the Apple App Store. The thing is, like, if you want all the premium features, you have to pay. Luckily, Shannon and I, by tomorrow, we will have a promo code. So any of our listeners will actually be able to go and subscribe and get a discount. So I think the discount will be $9 for the entire year, and you can listen with all the premium features of Castro. If you give me a second, I will actually have all the features of Castro once I pull it up. 1 second. Shit, we don't even have another voicemail to play. Damn it. I thought I was going to get away with it. So basically, Castro Plus. So Castro is the podcast app, but Castro Plus has things like side loading, trim silence, enhanced voices, advanced chapter support, mixed to mono, chapter and episode artwork per podcast settings and app icons. So I'll explain this and then, we'll try to wrap it up because I got to get to the baby. So, number one, side loading. Side loading lets you add any audio file from your web browser or from your phone directly into your listening queue. This is probably the number one reason why people who would want to use Castro use it. If you are a fan of audiobooks, like, you use your Kindle app and stuff like that, you can side load all of your Kindle like audiobooks and stuff into Castro, so you no longer have to deal with using the Kindle app in order to listen to them. You can listen to them at whatever speed you want. And if you're savvy, you can go to like subreddits on reddit.com and you can get free audiobooks and then just send them to the Castro app and you can listen to them there. So that's a free hack. Right now, people are paying like $9, $10, $15 for audiobooks, but you can Google them and then download. You can send the link to Castro and just listen to the audiobooks for free. That's a life hack for people. Shout out to Castro. The next one, trim silence. I talked about this earlier. So you save up to 20% of your listening time by listening to Castro. And it doesn't change the sound quality. So like I said, if there's a pause, if there's a stutter, if, this kind of dead space in a normal show, it eliminates it completely. So that is another bonus. It enhances voices. So like right now, like I could be whispering and then Shan could be like, her normal tone. It will dynamically balance the voices to boost quiet voices without increasing louder noises. So our voices will sound level. That's for who listen to a podcast or like, for me, like once the baby goes to sleep, I kind of get quiet. So when you listen on Castro, Shannon and I both sound at the same level. Absolutely fantastic alone. It has chapter support. So a lot of podcasts that are starting to do it are starting to do chapters. And it's easier for us to edit the podcast doing it in chapters, but it also makes it easier for people who are like, you know what? I'm listening to Young Black and Bothered. I want to hear the sports segment, but I don't want to hear about the politics side of it. So they can skip through by using chapters. It's like when you looked at an old DVD player and,
Yeah.
The DVD told you, oh, do you want to skip to chapter 1 or chapter 7? Castro has that. Mixed to mono, basically, like it has pan recordings. It does have chapter and episode artwork. Shannon and I are talking to, the people at Castro to get this fixed because it was broken for me the last time I checked, but it does do it. And they have per podcast settings. This is the only app that I know that does this other than Overcast, which is, say, for example, I want to get every single episode of She Gets It podcast automatically downloaded to my phone. I can get every single She Gets It podcast downloaded directly, and I'll get notifications. But everything else, the only way I get them is if I stream them and look for them. It's the only app other than Overcast that does that. So if Shannon says, you know what, I'm putting out 8 episodes this week of She Gets It podcast, I get 8 of them. And I don't, and no bullshit, I don't have to go and click each one. It's automatically downloaded. So when I open the app, I can just go play it. I don't have to worry about, do I have, network on my phone, or, I got to wait for it to download. It's only at 14%. It's automatically downloaded every time I pick up my phone. And then obviously there's 18 different icons. So you can make your phone look good with the icon as well. So to me, Castro, my number one. And we will have the promo code for y'all. I will have it by Wednesday. So shout out to Castro for doing things and being amazing. And, obviously, we're going to get out of here, but we got this last voicemail.
All right, appreciate you, bro. Yeah. I'm going to check those out. You the best. You guys are the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for checking out another off the cuff episode of Loud Mouth Stereo. My name is Shan from She Gets a Podcast. That is Greg from Young Black and Bothered. We did not plan this episode today, but I feel like this episode is needed for people to understand the back scene about podcasting, the needs and the things that are not needed, and the good podcasts that are out here that are not getting the marketing that they need. And also Greg's tips. Greg is like king of tips. Okay. I know we can't tell because he has a daughter, but you know what I'm saying? He is the king of tech tips.
See, I thought she was going to say something else. She said the king of tips. I was like, wait a minute. Oh, how did we get here?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
It was a
Anyway,
good show.
y'all. Yes, it was an absolutely good show. I'm sure I'll be in bed tonight by 10:30. Because I do have the sports desk with Q.
Yeah.
But we have that, and honestly, depending on how things work out, we might have to jump on here again. But I
Okay.
need everybody to go ahead and listen to another episode on Wednesday, and again on Saturday, and again on Thursday of this week because Shan has another show. Shan, what is that show?
She gets hardcore, and take that how you want to take it.
That's what she said.
Take that. Take that. Take that.
Look like we got one more, and then we out of here.
Good show, guys. Good show. I'll be listening to you guys in the future. Good show, though. Good to meet you. Good content.
We appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you.
As always, Shan, thank you for being my co-host and my friend and confidant.
Of course.
Even though we're going to get you the fuck off this Apple Podcast app and get you a real app.
He is so animated about me. Get off
Yeah.
this Apple Podcast.
Yes,
Right.
indeed.
We gonna see.
Oh, we will, because as soon as I get off here, I'm going to make sure that I get you that damn app immediately with due haste.
Listen. When a black man speak, what you do? You listen.
Exactly. You see? Look at that. Look at the people in the crowd, in the audience clapping. All right, y'all. We will catch y'all on Wednesday.
Peace.